each other, and it was nuts, nuts.
Well, the key thing is this. Let me explain my viewpoint on it. And on this one thing about federal court judges and the rights of the president.
Right.
And it's in the Constitution. It's Article 2. And Article 2 and Article 3 says that nobody can tell the president what to do. I mean,
Well,
in
that's how
other
they
words, the
interpret it.
president
That's how
has
they interpret it.
autonomy over the executive branch.
Yeah.
And so the point being, and that's in the Constitution. Wait, I'm not hearing you. Hold a minute. Hold it a minute. Let me get back here. Okay, back here. So that's in the Constitution. If you look at the Article 2 and Article 3. But
Right.
the point being, like, how can you run a country if, 320 million people, 50 states, and even if the guys are, you got a federal level judge taking care of federal business in each of the states, 50 guys, any one of them in Mississippi, Kentucky, California,
Right.
Alaska, Hawaii, any one of them could say, no, you can't do that because I say so. How can you give autonomy or hierarchy to 50 individuals living in all over the US over what the executive branch, which is run by the president, wants to do?
Well, that's what they're asserting. That's what he's asserting.
That's what he's asserting, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to go to court and it's going to be in front of, I don't know, it'll probably just sift its way up to the Supreme
No, they're going to go. There's one of them that's going to go straight to the Supreme Court.
Oh, they all go straight to the Supreme Court.
One of them is going to go straight to the Supreme Court. The other ones there's a whole bunch of them, but one of them goes straight to the Supreme Court. Let me go see what's going on with those guys, and I'll come back in a couple of minutes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll see what the hell they're going. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to wait for Jim. He's checking out another Zoom call that's going on that's competing with us. What are you going to do? That's life. It's competing with us. Okay, so by the way, you're watching Going Viral. On today's date is 2025, the 19th of February. Okay, and I'm recording on YouTube also. Okay, so unable to access YouTube with this Google account. Oh, maybe I have to sign up. That's it. Sign in. Let me sign in. Okay. Let's see if that has an effect. Okay. Now let me go up here and let me try this again. Sound systems. Volume's up, headphones, Bluetooth. Oh, let me get the other headphones. Maybe that's it. Okay, so I'm going to go Bluetooth and turn these off. Or turn this off. And I'll go get the other headphones. Okay, now let's try the audio. Now I hear it. Yes. Nope, still on the computer. What do you think I'm doing? Okay, it's not, the Bluetooth is not working. So I'm just going to live with this coming through on the computer here. And let's see who it says that I am. Participants, me, hosts, Ken Aaron, edit profile picture, rename, no. Okay. We had Jim Dingman and we just have a snafu with the sound. I don't know why. I don't think it's going to change though. Hello? 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 Now it's working. Hello? Hello? Maybe that's working. Okay. Yeah, it's working. Okay. Now these headphones are working fine. So now let's test this here. Are my headphones actually working? Yes, they are. Okay. That's the end of the test. And let's see what's happening with my YouTube thing. Okay. And I can't do that. So let's take a look and see if I can find that YouTube meeting. Um, Live. There we go. It looks like it's on. Then it's recording. I just smiled. Let's see if it comes through. Opened my eyes and smiled. There we go. Okay. It's like in about a 30-second drag. That's fine. Okay. And let's see what this sounds like. Okay, we're gonna wait, see if Jim comes back. Really, we actually talked about something without getting in an argument. Even if each one goes to the Supreme Court, let's take a look at the Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I should have done this before, but I'm going to pause recording here. And look how good looking I am. Why isn't this a regular meeting? This is a good look here. It looks very thin. Okay, well, I'm just going to go play solitaire for a while. And I'll keep this open and ready to watch and start recording if anybody else shows up. If nobody shows up by 6:20, I may go into my own political rant. I've been waiting to get inspired. I'm going to hang out and stop recording, but I'm going to hang out here and play solitaire while I stop recording, waiting to see who comes back or who comes on. If nobody comes on by 6:20, which is about half an hour from now, I probably try to go into a solo rant, which I've told myself I should do, but I never get around to it. So I have to break the ice with myself and start to do that. And basically communicating to myself. I just look at myself right there on the screen and say, hello, here's what I think of you, which is me. Okay, So I'm going to pause right now, play solitaire, and I'll be back. Okay. Jim is back. Okay, what'd you discover?
Still bullshitting away. I mean, they're in the Q&A part of it, but they're still BSing away.
Oh,
Did Alex and Michael say they were going to join you afterwards?
I don't know. I think Michael said he notified me about the conflict. So I guess that's where he is. Did you see him there?
Yeah, he just went off on one of his monologues. Um, he's there.
He leans over and he says, "Well, okay." And
Yeah,
Michael's there too. Who went off on a rant?
Alex is there.
Alex.
Alex is there. Yeah. I'll email them right now and see what they're up to. Okay. I'll
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back.
yeah.
I'll
I'll
come
be
back.
here. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to pause it again. There we go. Welcome back. I'll stop. I'll stop searching the web.
They're not there, huh?
Not yet. Did they say they're coming?
I just sent them an email, big email. Let me
Okay.
go back and see if they're still bullshitting. I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, back going. Here we go. You expecting anybody else to show up?
All right, they're finished.
Oh, so maybe they'll be coming on.
Yeah, maybe. I sent it out to a whole bunch of other people, so we'll see what happens.
You want to run them? You got things you want to go over? I was just concerned about that.
Well, I'll wait till those guys come. I got to deal with Gail in the library right now. So,
Oh, can you now this is good. Can you do this on Sunday?
yeah, we're gonna do. I'll record it on Sunday.
Yeah, but just with your mug. Just your
Want me
face
to do
up
it
there.
like that. Well,
Yeah, just like that. You look great. You look
I
great.
can't get into. You can hear all the background noise in here, right?
Nah, it's nothing.
Really?
Really. No
You're
problem.
jabbering away at full length.
This is much better than just a still picture of
If I
you
could
with
do
it.
it like this, I could start to try to do it like this.
Yeah, you look like I can't remember names. You know, the guy who was a famous New York journalist. Who was that famous New York journalist? Mailer? Not Mailer, Norman Mailer. Was that
Norman.
it? You know, no,
are
it's
you
one of
talking
those
about?
guys, a New Yorker. It's
Well,
good. You got a lot of character.
we got a lot of New Yorkers here, man. Shit.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway,
But it's much better because,
yeah. If I could
it's
get over here, the problem is that the noise level is pretty intense. You can't hear anybody talking in the background? No, really? Well,
it's
God,
you're just
that's a
using
good
you're just
background.
using the mic, you're just using the mic that's in the
I'll have to
laptop.
I'm using the mic inside the computer, but
Yeah.
I could attach the external mic.
No, it's fine. This is fine.
Yeah, I could attach the external mic. I don't know whether those guys are going to come. I don't know where the hell they are. The guys, I just emailed 35 people. Now, see what happened on Monday or Tuesday. Monday everybody went nuts, and the guys who wanted to come defend Trump, they came in force. There were 3 of them, and we were having, oh my God, it was like wild. It was wilder than you and me going at it, So
Well, what you mean? It's all around Trump?
no, we spent 3 hours on the Ukraine. We didn't get beyond that. We just argued about that for 3 hours. And
I mean, there's 2 sides to the issue. There's 2
lots of
sides.
sides to the issue, but what I learned from that is you can handle it with everybody screaming and yelling at each other, but you have to mute everybody because I allowed 5 guys to have open mics. So they interrupted whenever they wanted to. And so in the future, I'm not going to do that because it looks like going forward, it's going to be too emotional dealing with Trump. People are going to get too pissed off. So it was better to, just basically in the future, like, I don't care if they start. And then Michael was insulting somebody's intelligence. And it was too much. He was calling him a stupid idiot, and shit like that. And I told Michael, I said, don't do that afterwards. I mean, you can disagree with the guy's ideas, but don't call him a stupid fucking idiot. So anyway, lesson learned. I'm gonna.
So you can set up when you're hosting the meeting. You could set up that they have to get permission to.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just tell them,
raise your hand. Raise your hand.
One at a time, and don't interrupt everybody else. If somebody says something outrageous, you can say something outrageous afterwards. Now the 2 guys coming. One of them lived in Egypt for 10 years, and the other guy is a specialist on Iran. Both this guy who's a specialist on Iran, I've known him for 30 years. So he's written a whole bunch of books on Iran. And I just talked to them literally an hour ago. So I'm going to email them and set it up and do it. We'll do it. We got a lot of people now in the pipeline. A lot of people. I'm just trying to figure out how you market this shit.
Well, I have to, here's the thing. You have to start to take a look at your analytics on YouTube.
Yeah,
but you're not putting it up on YouTube. I'm putting them up.
Yeah, they're low.
No. Some of them are high. The highest one is Barbarossa. Barbarossa.
Yeah, all that World War II shit they like.
Well, no, just particular ones. I guess it depends on the guy's name, how many books he sold.
Right.
But the whole thing, I could show you. I can.
No, I see the analytics. I see the analytics.
What, on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, because they list how many people view it. They list. I mean, I was surprised we got so few people listening to Char Miller because he actually did a pretty good job talking about the Flyers.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, there was one day where you sent it out to your mailing list, not your,
And they
not
and they
the,
started to look.
not the YouTube participants, but
Right.
everybody's, 2,000 names you got,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you got in your email list.
And they started to respond.
Yeah,
All right. Well, so I probably have to do that. Probably have to do that more often.
yeah. We got to, if we can get some other volunteers, because we're old
Yeah.
farts and we have to stop and take a break and
Right.
eat a,
Right.
lox and a bagel or something. But
No,
so you
it's
need somebody
yeah.
young to post it on
Right,
Facebook
right.
every
Well,
day.
well, if I'm going to get somebody young, I don't want them to be doing the shit work. I want them to also, interview people. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm looking for those kind of people up here. I just haven't found them yet, but they're around. They're around here somewhere. I'll find
What
them.
about in the school? You're in Columbia now, is
I'm
that?
looking for them here. Trust me, I'm looking for them here. But
No,
they,
isn't there like a media courses?
oh yeah. But those guys are, first of all, they're all overburdened with work. I mean, forget it. They got tons of work. Um, like they have to read about 12 to 1,400 pages a week. So they're totally inundated with work. They can't do shit. So, but I'll find them. I'm looking for them. I'm gonna go over to KCR, the radio station. I'm gonna talk to those guys. Um, and then there's a whole other layer that I haven't even gotten to yet, and that's all these guys who were at the American Historical Association, all these guys doing the podcasts. Because they are built in, they'll bring in their own audience, like just sitting there talking to them about the art of podcasting and stuff like that. There's about 20 people I got the names of. So if I start doing that, I'm just thinking that you have to intermingle different kind of audiences all at once for marketing purposes. No, I mean, it's not like I haven't done marketing before with products. I have, but
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I got the most hits on celebrities. I had one girl that I did a thing. She wrote a song, a great song, and she played the violin. So it was
right,
very unusual. I videotaped her at a meeting somewhere,
right.
and boom, she's like number one
Oh
because
yeah.
she's
No,
got a
I figure.
fan club. You know,
Well, the guy I'd love to pin because I know him. Is the guy who's playing Bob Dylan in this new movie.
you know him,
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, but like I haven't been able to get a hold of him yet. I mean, I've known him for 10 years, but I haven't been able to get a hold
Timothy,
of him.
right? It's
Yeah,
Timothy.
Timothy. Yeah, Timothy's he's a very talented young man, and and he went to the same high school I went to. So like that.
You?
Yeah, he went to the same high school I went to.
But he's like 25 or whatever the
No,
hell
no, no.
he's.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like I went there in 66,
Oh,
63.
okay.
He
So
just he
coincidentally, yeah,
Yeah, but he's a nice kid. And
he's very talented.
oh yeah, extremely.
But
He did
he's
a
got
great
he's
job.
I think he's got, show business.
He's a very talented kid. What?
You don't know until you go home and watch it yourself on TV whether the guy works or not. You can't tell in the studio.
Oh no, he
Got to
worked
go
hard
home
to
and
do this. He spent five or
he
six
really
years.
comes across.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He
Uh,
captures the camera likes him.
yeah, no. He did a great job playing Dylan.
On the Dylan thing, did
Oh
you
yeah,
see
no,
that?
he did a fantastic job playing Bob Dylan. Um, he nailed him really good. I mean, I gotta say. But
Yeah, it
anyway,
was good in Dune. He was very good in
yeah,
Dune.
I'd have to, but I don't. It's hard to get a hold of him these days because he's too inundated with requests and all. I'd have to ask him to do me a favor, but I'll try to contact him because
Well,
he'd be
yeah, but we don't want to stick him somewhere politically. He's got a
no. I don't
career.
want to. I just wanted to talk about acting and all that because I mean Michael.
Promote whatever he's working on.
Yeah, because Michael would a couple of guys I know like that. Michael, I wouldn't necessarily let Michael. Well, Michael can get in on the act, but like Michael, I don't know. Michael, we'll see. We'll see. And I'm surprised these guys aren't here right now, frankly, because the whole thing ended like about 10 minutes ago.
What was it about?
It's about the Battle of Kursk. Um, it was somebody who I know the guy. I'd do him with one of our kind of things, and I'll do him eventually, but I just haven't had time to do it. I know him personally. But you know,
Oh, what
I'll,
do you think? What do you think about what's going on with Adams and the governor?
oh yeah, it's hilarious. Well, well,
See, I think there was a threat made. Somebody came up and said, he's black, and the black community is not going to be very happy with you if
no,
you
no, no.
kick
There are a
him
lot of
out.
black people. He's not popular in the black
It's not
community.
popular.
No, no, no. He if he tries to play that game, that's going to collapse because a lot of people don't like him. I mean, it's obvious what he did. He's just trying to make a get off of a rap, you know. And the fact that he's kowtowed to Trump, that's not going to fly. I mean, people have known him for many years. They just don't, they just lost. He lost all credibility to them. But he's going to
Just
try to
because
play that
more,
game.
not so much he was taking not because he was taking the perks on the side, but because he went to Trump to get
Nah,
his
he look
get
when
out
he
of jail card.
yeah, yeah, but also when he ran for mayor, he was caught. Some of his supporters were indicted before while he was borough president. He had the same shit happening to him when he was borough president.
Oh,
So he's not gonna. He can try to play the race card, but ain't gonna fly. Ain't gonna fly. That ain't gonna fly. He's got the city council of New York completely opposed to him, and that's black, white, Hispanic, everybody.
but not because of the grafts.
Oh, they're pissed off over this shit. They just want him out, and then Huxell's just upset because she has to deal with Andrew Cuomo. So she doesn't want Andrew Cuomo to get to be the mayor of New York, which is quite possible. You know, because they'd have to have an emergency election. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know, but Trump already interfered with he's just having a great old time. He interfered with the pricing.
Oh yeah, the $9.
Yeah, he knocked that out, and that's like
I
that's
don't know
not.
where he gets doing that. There's no way to explain that.
Well, no, that's because he's invoking the federal power that is involved with the
Yeah,
tunnels.
but he's being that's like being a despot. That's different than saying, I don't want you buying popcorn machines or something. It's got to be functional and reasonable. But that
Well, he knows,
interfering with that is just being a despot.
and he knows a lot of people are pissed off about that, which is
They
true.
are.
Oh yeah, yeah, people are pissed off about it because it means if you drive south of 60th Street, you get hit with $9. Now they're doing it for common sense reasons, but you tell that to somebody who depends on a car or a truck, they're just going to simply charge the price to the clients. That's all. But the cab drivers, the Uber guys, they just pass it along to the customer. But
I know.
but
When you come from the airport, you got to pay for the tolls.
yeah.
So,
Well,
but
if you live in Lower Manhattan, it's a question. See, it's all directed to people in Manhattan. It's not directed to the boroughs. You know. But if somebody's coming back from, if they're like north of 60th Street, so whatever the hell it is, they get hit with.
Are they doing it electronically? I guess so.
Yeah, it's like Easy Pass.
Oh, whoa, okay, but it's
It's
not.
like Easy Pass.
They're not just taking pictures of the license.
It's what?
Plate. They're not doing it off the license plates.
No, no, no. It's probably running. I don't know how they're actually doing it, but I'm pretty sure it's like Easy Pass. I mean,
So you think Trump did it for
Pass.
political
What?
reasons? He was doing somebody a favor for political
He's
reasons.
what?
Trump, when he's interfering with that, he's trying to cancel it.
No, yeah, he's trying. He just wants to gain political popularity with the voters in New York because sometimes they're talking about running his asshole son as mayor, Eric, or he like they've actually put him forth as a candidate to run for mayor or some other Republican schmuck. But his son might run for mayor. So like Trump. I mean, Trump. They're very mobilized to implement their agenda. So they're doing it on all fronts. I mean, I just listened to all these guys bitch about the Middle East for 3 hours just now. Oh yeah. These are people who like been in the Middle East. They lived in the Middle East. They were parts of the State Department, the White House. They're all bitching. about Trump in the Middle East. Well, I'm really it's a little surprising that Mike isn't here. Wow.
Yeah.
Because see, look, I could flood this with people. Do you want to really handle that? Do you want like 20 or 30 people on these phone calls?
I don't care.
All right. All right. Well, next week I could do that. I could send out to list. It just is that you got to really you got to handle it. You got to keep everybody muted. I mean, that's for sure. You got to sort of like crack the whip.
Okay, what a topic.
Well, you could talk about whatever, we could figure that out, but like Alex comes in with all his oddball bullshit, but
No, Alex is pretty predictable. It's like he's attacking the US
yeah,
and the US
exactly.
and capitalism. I was the president of an organization and it was constantly attacking China for its inhumanity, its violation of human rights. And I just got sick of it. Tiananmen Square Memorial every year.
Right.
And I'm going, it's like 30 years ago. There's tragedies like this that happen every week somewhere in the world. Whatever calamity happened in Tiananmen Square,
Right.
It's happening in Africa or in India or in the US. There's all kinds of mass murdering and shit going on and injustices. And harping on this, I just got sick of it because the person has a bone to pick because her family lost their assets in China when when Mao defeated the whatever they call it, the Kuomintang, whatever.
Right.
So I just said that's enough of that, because here's what broke my back on it was they had a famine in China and they lost 20 million people, let's say, right?
Yeah, right.
And it was not intentional. It was stupidity. It was bad policy.
Right.
Okay. It was not malicious intent.
Right.
She put out I was the president. She put out a press release condemning Mao Zedong and the CCP for murdering. And I'd say, well, that's it. I'm out of here. You didn't check the press release with me before you did it. I'm sick of this. And you can't make any progress just by attacking people for their history of crimes. And even what they're doing, you can't. You got to be tolerant of different societies. You have to deal with the enemy. You can't just say, "Oh, fuck you, you're evil because you don't brush your teeth every day. You don't follow my code of behavior." You can't do that. You're going to have constant wars like that. So, and that's the way Alex is. He's constantly only one side.
Oh yeah. No, Alex is a trip. He's like
everything America touches is terrible. Everybody in America is a criminal.
Right. Well, that's predictable. That's predictable with him.
I think that's his thing. I don't think he's, I don't know what he teaches or whatever.
He hasn't been teaching in a while. He teaches history.
Oh.
He taught history, but I don't think he's been teaching for a while. He's been on disability or something like that. He's been on work. I don't know, something like that. But he hasn't taught for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's fine. But sometimes he's fine and he's interesting and he's diligent.
No.
Sometimes
I can depend on Alex to do work. Alex will do the work. I can depend on that with him. But anyway, all right. So I don't know what to tell you, Kenny. I don't think anybody will come on tonight. So
great. So let's cut it off.
Yeah, take it easy, man. All right, take it easy, man.
All right. So just give me a warning when you're going
to I will. Sunday. Okay.
Sunday is 1 o'clock your time?
Yeah, right. I'll set it up. All right.
Okay, and now you're going to run that. So you're going to.
I'll run it, but yeah.
You're going to turn it off.
I will
make me a co-worker.
Record it if necessary. You can record it if you want, but we can work it.
I can record it, but I mean, I'm saying also.
Yeah, I'll run the damn thing. I'll run it.
Okay, good. All right. I'll be talking to you.
Take it easy.
Hey, take a night off. Relax. Go have a donut. Okay. So I'm here by myself. What am I going to talk about? You kind of heard what we were talking about. Jim was being very civil, and that's really nice to have him on a video. That was great. I hope that got recorded. Okay, I think I'm gonna beg out here. That's all. Good night. If you happen to see this, this is a very short end. Well, let me see if there's something I wanted to talk about. yeah, let me share with the audience what the things I was going to talk about. They're very interesting. Let's see if I can find them. Let's see, is this them? Thing. What is this? Oh, yeah. This is shocking. Let me get to this. Let me share this. Oh, wait a minute. Stop it. I got to turn the sound back on. So I'm going to stop the share and start it over again. Okay, here we go. Share. And then if I click these two, then the sound should work. Let's see what happens. Okay.
Well, congratulations.
Not much
It's just a
difference.
Country?
Here we
So why
go.
the hell did this happen? Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump doesn't mince words. Children, Olympian mass murder, which is what's happening here when 70 innocent civilians perished when an Army Black Hawk helicopter, inexplicably flying a mile off course and twice as high as they're legally allowed to, smashed into the side of a commercial airline, killing women, children, Olympians, people from Russia and China. I mean, it could be a.
Let me handle this. I got somebody coming in here. Got James McAdam. Okay. Let's see what happened. I'll let him in and I'll say hello. And let me stop the share and talk to James. Hi, James. Oh, I remember you. You were in one of the other calls that Jim did.
Yeah, Jim does yeah.
With I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't with Char. It was the last guy.
Oh, do you mean the guy who talked about Ted Hall?
Yeah. I think so. Yes, and I edited it.
And the Manhattan leaker of the plutonium bomb. Jim had one show about that recently.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. But one of the videos I because I remember, of course, this picture is that that's not in North Dakota, is it?
No. This is the High Sierras.
High Sierras.
I'm on the west. I'm on the west coast.
Yeah, but where? Like up north?
This is near Mammoth Lakes. It's up in the High Sierras. It's sort of an area south of Lake
Mammoth,
Tahoe.
the famous ski center.
That's right.
That's like the center. I think I call that the center of California. You call it like.
Yeah, it's pretty close to Nevada, but it's
right.
Mammoth Lakes is like where the LA skiers go. And
right.
then the Bay Area where I live, we mostly go up to Lake Tahoe and ski in that area.
Right. This is if you go up to 5, you run into Lake Rammer.
Yeah, this is above Mammoth Lakes.
So are you a outdoors person?
Yeah. I did a couple. I normally do a backpack every year. And
just once a year. There's a Bluetoother named oh geez, I'm always losing my names. What's the guy's name? He's a geopolitical that's his background, geopolitics. He does very good pieces. And what I appreciate, and I'll get his name soon, Zeihan. And I think it's Zeihan is his last name, and his first name I think is Peter. And let me see, I'll get him and I'll show you who he is, because what he does is similar to what you're doing. I'll pull up one of his things and you'll see. He talks his geopolitics about what's happening in China or Turkey or with Ukraine and Russia, but he's walking somewhere. And he goes he'll go to New Zealand, he'll go to Oregon. He's always outside, outdoors, hiking.
That would be, I would love to be able to do that. I don't think my knees could do it. All the time. I can do it for bursts.
Let me take a look. Let me just take a fast look and see if I can get him. And just to show you, it's really a kick.
So did I come in at the tail end of your
Well, what happened? Yeah, more or less. That's right. Peter Zeihan, I said it correctly. So let me see if I can get a video of, here we go. Syria makes some noise. So let's see where he's. Oh, I don't want a hotel room. So let's go somewhere else. China is collapsing. Here he's going. Now he's talking about maps here. I'm trying to get, oh, here we go. Here, let me just share this with you so you can see what it looks like. You'll get a kick out of it. And we don't have to talk about anything because it was like a wash because there was a meeting, another Zoom meeting about World War II.
Ah, okay,
And
yeah,
so
that
everybody
one.
went to that. Did you go to that too?
No, I
think
didn't
so.
go to that one. I just I've been barbecuing and then eating dinner
Okay, that's
and so I
fine.
was just
Hold
taking
on. Let me just show you this. I think you'll get a kick out of it. You'll see what I mean. Share, and then that's on, and I'll go to advanced, and I'll take a PowerPoint portion of screen. There we go. And here we go. So if I take this portion, and I'll here.
$823 overnight? Discover the 3:30 p.m. trading phenomenon.
I'm going to tell you the thing I like about this guy is he's geopolitics. So he's not talking about capitalism or communism so much. He
I-
talks more about commerce.
Yeah, I
uh,
think I've seen this guy. Didn't Dingman
There he
show
is.
didn't Dingman have this guy some of his stuff?
I might have played him once.
So
To see, let me turn the volume on here.
but
Another entry from
Let's
the
find out where he is. He's
Hey
always
everybody, Peter Zine here, coming to you from central Yosemite. It's another mountain lake. It is also unnamed, so it is now from now on going to be known as Peter's Other Lake. It even has a beach. Isn't that awesome? Anywho, today we're going to take another entry from the Ask Peter forum, specifically what's going to happen to global agricultural exports in a post-globalized world. And the short version is, well, nothing good. In order to have agricultural exports, you basically have to have 5 things. 1, a lot of arable land that's productive. Number 2, petroleum to use as fuel. There really isn't any sort of agriculture that is produced at scale that doesn't use internal combustion engines. Yes, they're talking about having electric tractors and everything, but they suck. The charge doesn't last long enough to do anything useful. There isn't enough power to tow anything. And so unless you're talking about like an electric cart to like go along as people are picking apples, no, not this decade, probably not next decade. Third, you need fertilizer. Now, fertilizer comes in 3 parts, and nobody has all of them. You've got potash, which gives us potassium. You've got phosphate, and then you've got nitrogen. Nitrogen is normally made from natural gas, so there's something else you can add to your list. These things are scattered about the world, but in, unfortunately, some concentrations in places that are problematic. So, for example, roughly half the world's phosphate exports come from China, which is bad enough in a world where China is likely to break apart, but it's even worse because the phosphate is in the interior regions that are more likely to be secessionists. So you can just kiss all that goodbye.
okay. So I'm pausing it. You get the idea?
Mhm. No. I think I've seen this guy at some time. I remember, but it seemed like, I mean, that's great to be out there, but I think you'd want to, I wonder, is he just doing everything off the top of his head, or is he doing research?
Oh no,
I
he's always
wonder how he
talking
does
about
his. I always wonder how people like this were doing their research. So.
Hey everybody, Peter
really?
Zine
Let's
here,
take a
coming to
look
you
at
from
this.
North Carolina, where in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, everything is a little
This is it says North Carolina. So
Well,
oh,
it
I
makes
got
for
another guy coming in. Okay.
it makes
another
for
guy
better
coming in.
background. Makes for better background.
Hey everybody, Peter Zine here, coming to you from North Carolina, where in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, everything is a little moist. If you are here looking for your daily dose of moi, it's not here anymore. I am in the process of migrating my services over to Patreon, and there is a link attached to this video. If you subscribe, you will be able to not only get access to the videos that you love and hate or whatever in between, you will also get access to my morning brief, so you can see how I start to prepare. But if you don't want to do that, if you're cheap and you just like it, to the method I selected just with a week delay. So today's video will be 7 days from there. Okay, that's it for me. I suggest you, of course, sign up.
There we go.
And in the meantime,
So this was a,
I'm gonna go get breakfast.
yeah, there's another one. Let's say, here's another one.
Did
Let's see
you?
this one.
So my doctor told me I need to get my diet in order.
Okay,
Just
Who's
curious,
that?
did you have a discussion before I got on?
no,
With,
no, no, no. Well, I was just talking with Jim, and then he left because he thought nobody was coming on. Who's this speaking right now? Is this
That was McFadden speaking.
okay, one second. Let me kill this for now, and I'll tell you what we were talking about because I'm interested to get everybody's feedback about it. Just, oh, there it is. Stop my share. Okay, so we got Thomas Morgan and James McFadden, and this is Ken Aaron from Los Angeles. And when I was talking to Jim Dingman about the second article of the Constitution that says the president has complete authority over the distribution to care for how the funds allocated by the legislative branch are being handled. You know, it's called the care, oversight care. So all of these 50 different states that have federal judges, any one of them feel, or they're making an assertion that they can override what the executive, the head executive, the president decides to do in terms of the distribution of funds, as covered in the second article of the Constitution. And my concern about it is, you know, people can always argue a legal point, but how could you run a country where the authority, the hierarchical authority, you may not like hierarchies, but the guy in charge who says, you know, turn to the port, turn to the starboard, the guy who's running the ship, well, any one of the 50 crew members can say, no, you're not allowed to do that. And you can't do it unless I say you can. So, I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Because
You gestured to starboard when you meant port.
yeah, well, that's, you know, the camera's backwards.
601, half a dozen of the other.
Well, no, starboard's to the right, port's to the left. I'm actually, this is my left hand. This is my right hand. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, because anybody,
That's called the unitary executive.
yeah,
And there's an interesting article that Chris Hedges put out. I think it's now on Consortium News also, that he put out on his where he goes into he kind of addresses this and how you know, it's real. It's in Hedges' view, it's just kind of going down the garden path to dictatorship, you know, as you move more and more stuff. And as long as everybody cooperates with it, then the executive branch can just gather more and more power to itself, you know, and doesn't have to happen that way because, you know, clearly the executive branch people cannot do what the president orders, and then and if he fires all these people, then the institutions don't work. So it's going to be an interesting battle over how much power can be wielded by the presidency if he tries it. So.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, recently, I think he really stepped over the barrier just yet today. New York City put in a rule that if you go below 42nd Street, you got to pay $9 in a vehicle. And he's canceling that obviously for personal reasons, like maybe one of his relatives wants to run for mayor or he's from New York. But you know, that's really interfering. That's kind of like saying, I'm sorry, James, you're not allowed to wear that kind of hat. You know, I mean, that's really interfering with local management. That's not in his purview.
It's not clear that anything will come of it. You know, he can say that, but the city can
ignoring.
leverage, yeah. And the state can leverage tolls on roads. So it seems like, I don't know what he thinks he can do at some
Yeah.
level.
What do
Unless-
you think, Tom?
Well,
You're-
I didn't catch enough of this. I just signed in, but
No. What we're talking about, you've been following what's happening with the president and
Oh yeah, a little bit I have. Yeah. What do I think about what?
do you think that the president can be stopped by any judge, any federal judge?
Well, he can be stopped. I'm not quite sure who or under what circumstances. I think he can be stopped. I just don't know if we'll do it or not.
I think it's going to
You
wind up.
see, I was in the Army for a long time, and he's kind of like a general. Sometimes they get away with it, and sometimes they don't.
Right, but
Since you were at a lower position, you weren't a general, I take it, Thomas?
No,
or-
I wasn't a general. No, hell no.
So did you ever disobey an order?
Probably on a very low scale. Probably did. Yeah.
So, because if everybody obeys orders in a top-down thing, then somebody and the president can get away with a lot. But if people say, to start saying this order, violates the Constitution, or this order violates.
Well, it would have
the
been
law.
low-level stuff. We fired an artillery round in the wrong place, and maybe I lied about that. Those things happen all the time.
Yeah. This discussion reminds me, James, of a movie I saw, and I was really impressed by it. I can't remember the name of it or who the actors were, but the point was, it was somebody lost they were trying to find their son who was lost in the Amazon, and they found the tribe where he was, and they got to talking to the chief, and he said to this guy who's looking for his son, said to the chief, "Why don't you tell everybody that they have to go look for him? They have to stop what they're doing, and I got to go look for my son." "Well, you're the chief. Why don't you tell them that?" The guy says, "Well, the major reason I'm the chief is I never ask them to do something they don't want to do."
No, that's a good point. That's
It's
a
a
very
good
good point. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
That was a good point. And I think I think there should be a compromise with the concept of dictatorship to democracy, of having a troika of like 3, 4, 5, like a supreme, maybe not 9 people, but like 3 to 5 people who are like in the top head of the office.
Well,
And,
in my opinion,
yeah,
one of the big problems with the president is he never split his cheeks over a slit trench in his life. He's a 4-time draft dodger, and he doesn't know what he's talking about when he tries to talk about military things. And I'm not so sure he's getting good advice.
right. Do you think that the guy picking that, the guy he put in as the head of the defense?
Oh, that idiot?
Yeah, that
Oh,
idiot.
Christ, that idiot? Oh, Jesus, God. God help us,
He's just a foot soldier, huh?
Who?
The guy he
That's
put in.
Smith?
Yeah.
Oh, he wasn't a real soldier.
Oh, no?
He just played soldier.
Oh, okay. He didn't see
What,
any.
he ended up his tour in Guantanamo Bay. Isn't he the one that did that? One of them ends up in Guantanamo Bay, So big deal. I've been to Guantanamo Bay. It's so what? It's nothing. It's just where we put political prisoners,
Well, who was the last good political or president with, Eisenhower? Is that what he do a good job, you think?
Well, I think Eisenhower did a decent job, don't you?
Yeah.
I think he did. Yeah.
And he's about the
I
last
did,
one.
Yeah. I met him when he came to West Point.
He did a good job, and he just got
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll have a question for you too, that I've been pondering, because I've been trying to understand what this change of direction that Trump's taking and where it's going to go. So where he's kind of pissing off Europe, he's trying to implement all kinds of changes. And I have to say, it reminds me of a breakup. And I read somewhere that somebody said that looks like Trump is interested in kind of divvying up, amongst the three superpowers, which are going to be China, Russia, and the U.S. And I just started thinking, this sounds like, Trump wants to create Oceania. Oceania had, all of Latin America, had Canada, this is in 1984, in the and there were three superpowers, which were all very dystopic. And that's kind of what I'm wondering, if he's just trying to cut a deal, to set up that kind of structure.
Right.
And
just, and break up the world and stop the conflicts. Just make a deal.
yeah, cut a deal, and then we'll focus internally, on our people to make sure, our oligarchs, control things here, and you guys can have your own oligarchs in your other country, in your each region, and we'll respect those boundaries. And then Africa and the Middle East will be kind of open competition for exploitation. That's kind of what I'm
Could be
wondering.
a bit, that's a playground where people can go, and if you want to come and have a conflict with me, let's go and do it in Africa.
Or just to go get resources, so you need to draw. So Africa has weak governments and resource rich. And
Except
so
the backlash from that has been the immigration into Europe from Africa.
yeah, and it looks like Europe's kind of a sacrifice zone right now. I mean, when the pipeline got destroyed, it undermined European economy. So, when Biden blew up the pipeline, that kind of sunk them, and they don't, Europe doesn't have a lot. It has a lot of wealth that it extracted from the rest of the world, but it doesn't have a lot of resources that are needed to generate new wealth or to maintain things. They've been like that because they've exploited the rest of the world. So it's not quite clear. I mean, like, for instance, it's not clear to me that Russia would even want Europe, because Europe doesn't have things that Russia wants. Russia has all the resources it needs, so, why would it want to try to go occupy Europe and just that just sounds like Afghanistan times 30. So, but Ukraine was right on its border. I think it didn't want missiles 5 minutes from Moscow. So that's why they
Absolutely.
decided to go into Ukraine.
Yeah. The guy we were watching, Peter Zahan, he said, when you look at Russia, it says if they don't stop them at the Ukraine, they're going to go on to get Poland and Lithuania and everything, because it's a big flat plain between the center of Russia all the way to Europe, and it's totally appropriate for invasion, like Napoleon and Hitler both tried to do.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think they want
wants
that buffer zone. They want a buffer
he wants
zone.
a buffer zone, right? They want a buffer zone, and that's those countries in between,
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking to get control over. But well, why not? Why not break the world into a tolerant a balance, instead of trying to create a system of having 230 different identities, each asserting its own personality to, with we're the best, 230 times from all the different countries, like what's happening in Burma. It seems like some of these places they split up into Hindu and Muslim, or Muslim and Christian, or atheist and religious, all kinds. They keep breaking up like that. Oh, here's another guy, Mike Jankowicz finally joined with us. Hi, Mike. Waiting for you to warm up. So, hi, Mike. James has been here and come and gone, but we got right now was James McAdam, and we had somebody else for a brief period of time. but he
Thomas
left.
Morgan was there for a little
Thomas
bit.
Markin. So we'll see who else pops in. But the general topic we're talking about is how much of a dictator Trump could get away with being. And is the second article of the Constitution actually declare that the president is the hierarchical head of how the funds allocated by the legislature are distributed, and to oversee with care that they're being properly used. So therefore, he's not subject to one of the 50 states where there's a federal level judge in each of the states that the judge says, no, I know better than the president. He can't do this because I don't like it. You got 50 judges, and some percentage of those judges are obviously some percentage going to be corrupt, and some percentage are going to be underneath the influence of local partisan politics. So you could definitely say you'd have to question any judge who did that. Why did they do that? Why did they come up with granting permission, whoever brought the case forward for an injunction? So that's the question. What's the right balance between the benefits of having a benign hierarchical point of control against, or the dangers of that? And if you're going to allow it to be just, we're going to have 50 people who are going to be the gatekeepers on what's right and wrong. So what's your take on that? You've been hearing about this, Mike. I know you have a position on it.
Yeah, well, first of all, why don't you bring up the Constitution?
All right, let's take a look at Article 2.
Yeah.
Okay, just give me a minute. I'll find it, and then
Yeah, while you're
share it.
while you're finding it, I have very little doubt, but we'll find out in a second, that Donald Trump is overstepping his authority in regards to what his authority is under the Constitution. However, he wouldn't be the first president that did that. But he may be the first president that did it as arrogantly and, well, I guess with the claim that he can do whatever he wants. I mean, sure, there's no doubt that Trump has ambitions to be a dictator, if he knows what an actual dictator is.
Well,
But
actually, do me a favor. Dictator has been used very carefully in historical contexts of denying anybody, the rights, no freedom of speech,
no.
executions. Dictator is very common.
this sense-
Why don't you just say an unchallenged hierarchical?
No, that's part of what makes a dictator. In this sense, we're talking about a dictator, not in the sense that basically what he says, he has the ultimate authority over everything. This doesn't mean that he's going to deny everybody their rights or something. It just means that he is claiming dictatorial powers, that he has the highest authority.
Okay, let's take a look. Let me read this, okay?
Okay, yeah, let's go.
The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold this office during the term of 4 years, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. That's section 1, okay? Each state shall appoint and blah, 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 blah. And who's qualified? Here it is at the bottom. Let's see.
Well, don't,
Section
don't
2. There we go.
Okay.
He shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militias of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officers in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in the case of impeachment. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the Senate as president concur, and it shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not taken otherwise provided, are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper. Fill up vacancies. So I'm not seeing the thing where he has complete autonomy on the discretion. Let me search for the one word there. Care. Here it is. I found it. It's section 3. He shall from time to time give the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in the case of the disagreement between them, with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn into such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Okay, that's the point of he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed.
Yeah.
So therefore, if the House allocates $150 should be used for the janitors who work in the White House, he has the right to make sure that that law is being faithfully executed, and those funds are being used to buy janitorial supplies, and they're not used to buy DVDs of pornography.
Yeah.
So he has that right. And there was somewhere else that other people are referring
Well,
to.
he
I'm
has
not
the
sure.
right. He has the right to make sure that the law is being faithfully executed. Now,
Right.
the fact is that if the law says we are allocating so much money for the Department of Education,
Yeah.
his job is to make sure that those monies are being used for the Department of Education.
Right.
If the law says to be used for the Department of Education only with the exclusion of the following items, then he can execute. Then he can prosecute. I don't mean prosecute literally. He can execute measures to make sure that those monies go towards those areas with the provisions that the law states. But what he's been doing, let's say DEI, the money allocated to the Department of Education by law, by Congress, did not, as far as I know, specifically say, with the exception of anything that can be considered DEI. Now, that means he has gone beyond his authority. Again, he's not the first president to overreach like that, but it still doesn't make it right. And there's something I want to bring up, an example. Julianne Moore, the actress, published a book, a children's book.
Who?
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore, the actress, redhead actress. I think I got her last name right. Yeah. She published a book. It doesn't matter who she is. She published a children's book. And the children's book was about a girl who's basically ashamed of her freckles. And the purpose of the book is to say, her freckles are not a problem. She should be proud of her freckles. All right. The book was banned by the Trump administration. The book was banned. So in other words, for anything that where the federal government has any say over the issue, that book cannot be used. The actress, the author said, "What are they against freckles?" She couldn't figure out why. And the only explanation that was offered was that it could be seen as an analogy to DEI issues. First of all, he doesn't have the authority to say we're banning everything that has any mention of DEI. He's already.
Wait a minute, could you
exceeded
qualify the ban? What was the nature of the ban? It can't be
Well, basically-
printed or it can't be used in school?
Can't be used in schools.
Oh, so he banned it
It
from
can't be used.
elementary schools.
Can't be used in any venue that is under the jurisdiction or is receiving federal monies.
All right,
Jurisdiction of federal law or is receiving federal monies.
yeah.
But the fact is, he's already exceeded his authority with the DEI stuff. However, now they're going even further, in which they are making their own calculation erroneously, probably erroneously in this case, but certainly totally subjectively, with no evidence to back it up, that this was an analogy for DEI. I mean, for that matter, you can say, Trump's, you can say the MAGA, everything, all the issues the MAGA people are expounding are also, you can say anything is an analogy for DEI. It's actually paranoia put into fiat.
Okay, well,
So-
that's your opinion. You could say that too. You
Wait a
could
second,
say your
No.
action is paranoid.
Well, wait a second. There is far more evidence to back up my assertion
Your
than
evidence.
there is to back up theirs.
Well, who judges the
They offered-
evidence? Who
They
makes that
offered-
decision? Who's right or wrong in this issue?
Well, wait a second, hold it. Evidence. We're not
No,
talking
who
about
makes the decision? There's evidence, great, there's evidence. But who adjudicates the evidence to determine who's right or wrong?
the courts.
Why is the court senior to the presidency?
The courts are senior. to
Courts
the
are appointed,
presidency.
they're not, it's not an elected position.
Some of them are elected, some of them are not.
No, not the federal appointments.
Okay, in the federal courts, they're appointed. He made some of the appointments, and the courts basically adjudicate the law.
Yeah, but why is that?
Wait. The executive branch enforces it.
Yeah,
That means they don't adjudicate.
yeah.
They basically say, we're going to enforce it, but the courts will decide what is a correct, or what is the interpretation of the law that they will use. That is not the president's job.
Okay, but what you're saying, here's what's happening in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the issues of like who's right or wrong, what kind of books should or shouldn't be banned for public schools.
It
Because,
doesn't matter.
everybody has different opinions about that and people can come up with different evidence. I've seen lots of evidence that children who've had physiological changes to their bodies because they want to change their sex gender from male to female or vice versa, can have the same rate or higher rate of suicide after the operations that they did if they were denied the operations. And I can present that evidence,
Well, that's
and,
evidence.
and that 90% of children who want to change their sex, they drop that idea as soon as they become like 25 years old. Now, there's a
Well-
percentage of people who persist,
Well,
but
wait a
the
second. Hold on.
children, most of them give it up when they're 17 to 25, and there's
The
statistics on it.
efficacy-
So the point is,
efficacy-
evidence
Yeah,
is
no,
evidence,
Ken.
and somebody can
No,
adjudicate it.
Ken. It's
Yeah.
the efficacy of that evidence.
What do you
I
mean
mean-
by evidence? You're going to decide what the definition of evidence is.
Evidence is, in other words, if you scientifically can
Come
show.
on, stop that. Science.
Oh, no.
science.
If
Science is on your
scientifically-
side.
If first of all, if we throw out science you might as well end this country right now.
Yeah, fine.
Okay? Because
Yeah,
we're dead.
sure.
We're doomed.
Yep.
And if you don't believe it, you got your head in the sand or up your own ass. I'm not
There
just
you
saying
go.
anybody.
Well,
who
that's,
doesn't-
is that a scientific statement?
Yeah. You want to know why?
Okay.
You want to know why? Because
Why?
we're on a scientific something. What we're communicating right now through something that was developed by science.
Well, but most of the scientists have believed in God, so, you know.
Right? You've done a
Just out
done
of
a-
curiosity, am I the only
Yes,
scientist here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a scientist. Okay. I have
You're
a
the only
degree in
true
science. You know,
scientist.
some people do, some people don't. But
So
the
let me
point
just-
is,
Jim,
you're talking
you're on
about
the air,
something
hold
that's
it.
very subjective. Forget
If
about
Jim-
what we're talking about. The
Wait,
question
wait,
is,
hold on,
why
hold
does the judge
Ken,
have a higher
science
authority
is
than
not-
the elected president?
Ken, science is not a matter of total subjectivity. Science
Okay,
tries to come up with truths. Now, it doesn't mean those truths will not be disproven at some point, but science tries to get to the essence of the truth in
yeah,
science.
sure.
Jim,
Okay,
we
thank
got
you.
Jim on the show, when he acts as a scientist, he is not
I know,
just
it's,
imposing his
wait a
opinion.
second, Michael, you're just cloaking yourself in the mythology of science is right and everybody else is wrong.
Oh, first
That's
of all,
just an assumption. Stop
don't
it, stop
associate
it.
mythology with science. And that's your problem.
Say it again.
You're saying the mythology of science. That's counterintuitive.
Okay,
Science is scientific facts, things that are true in the universe, natural law.
yeah,
Natural law exists whether you want it to or not.
yeah,
Truth exists whether you want to accept it or not.
okay.
So let's not go there. What's your original question?
Why should a judge have the right to put an injunction on a decision that the president made in terms of how the funds of allocated by the Congress are being correctly or incorrectly expended?
Because that's the judge's job. In other
Oh.
words, the judge,
So you're saying in the Constitution, judges have the authority to make a judgment about how the president is doing his job, and they have seniority in that. And what if wait a second, what if one guy from Nevada says you cannot stop them from buying lunches for children, and then a guy from Arizona says, I'm going to counteract that injunction. You have the right to stop them giving lunches. What if there's a disagreement between different judges in different states?
then it goes up to a higher court.
Okay, so in the meantime, what happens?
In the meantime, either there's a stay on what can be done, and the judge, and then another judge, a higher judge, can overturn that stay, or
Yeah.
it's allowed to continue as is until it reaches a higher court. Depends on the case. It depends upon what the judge is ruling on.
Right. Okay, so that's what's going to happen here. It's going to wind up in the Supreme Court.
Well, actually, what happened here, and what Trump is being accused of by many, well, listen, what he's being accused of, and what it appears he's doing, we haven't had, again, it hasn't been adjudicated, is that the court has basically put a stay on what he was doing, but he's apparently, and it hasn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but is apparently not obeying the court's judgment. The court said there should be a stay. He's proceeding anyway. He's violating the court. Therefore, he's violating the law. And he's violating federal law. And
That's
he's
an opinion.
violating,
That's an opinion.
violating the Constitution.
It may be violating the judge's opinion.
No,
Yes.
the judge. No, the
Yes.
judge issued a ruling.
So what?
When the court rules, then you have
Any
to
court, any court.
any court. He can take it to a higher
Traffic
court.
court in Los Angeles.
Traffic court in Los Angeles, it says under their jurisdiction they can only handle traffic issues dealing with the only issues in that venue, in their purview, But if they say Trump, the MAGA people violated the speeding laws when they were going to a demonstration, and Trump says they said they violated it, you can appeal this ruling. But instead of appealing it, or in addition to appealing it, Trump tells his people, go ahead and continue speeding.
Right.
Go ahead. Doesn't matter what the court said.
Yep.
Then those are the actions of a would-be dictator. And those are and he is violating his constitutional, his presidential, his lawful, and most importantly, his constitutionally lawful authority.
Okay. Okay, so now I got to go back to James. What kind of scientist are you? Physics or chemistry or what?
I'm a physicist.
A physicist, yeah. My brother got a degree in that too. So do you believe in the Big Bang, or you got some questions about it now? Are you a cosmic physicist or just
I'm a space plasma physicist. So.
Say that again? Space?
Space plasma physicist. So
Oh, there you go.
I
Okay.
build experiments that measure charged gases in space, near the Earth or near Mars or
But
wherever.
you're knowledgeable about, or you're aware of the controversy that's going on because the new telescope looked beyond 13 billion years and saw galaxies that were too developed.
Yeah, there's assumptions that go into these theories of, you're trying to predict something that's billions of years old. There's assumptions that go into it.
That's
And
right.
they're trying to explain away some of the small variations from the standard model of the Big Bang. And because you can't really make measurements back then, so you don't really know. So you're trying to guess what things happen. So
Right.
that's the way all that works.
So in the topic of science, and if you, even in your own field, of the principles that are generally accepted as standard concepts, the way we would say gravity is 32 feet per second per second, Isaac Newton's, that level of physics is, let's say, substantial. It's settled science. But when you go to quantum mechanics, it's different, and when you go to cosmological levels, it's different.
Actually, quantum mechanics has some pretty damn good calculations, that they've been able to do.
So is there a
so-
percentage of any science that's questionable? That it is, in other words, where you could say it appears to be, as far as we know.
Well, so science is about trying to develop models and theories to explain the universe, and it's understood that they're approximations because you can never measure everything precisely. So there's an approximation, and to do any kind of calculation, you got to make assumptions about things. So, but those I think the models, like the standard model for quantum mechanics, is pretty damn good for explaining these experiments that are conducted, where you fire at very high velocity protons or
beam.
electrons into other particle streams, and you look at what comes out, and the models are damn good at explaining that. But there's some things like, that aren't necessarily easy to explain, like here's one that came up recently in me with conversations. Why is the electron charge quantized? So,
Could you repeat that, please?
So I don't know if you understand like what quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is about things being quantized. So you can have you can have one electron, but you can't have a half of electron.
Right.
That's quantization, and that comes out of a particular type of theory where you actually the particle quantization comes out of something called second quantization. First quantization explained the hydrogen atom. The second quantization was a way to create fermions and bosons. Just a way, it's certain mathematical tricks that really explain things, but it doesn't explain why the electron charge. So the electron is a particle, and it has properties. One of the properties is its charge. Another property is its mass. Why is its charge quantized? Why is the electron charge itself quantized as opposed to electrons themselves being quantized? So
Okay.
the particle. Those are different things, and it's kind of a mystery. Nobody really knows. But there's people tried to explain this for a long time, and they know that if and the way the theory works is if the universe has monopoles, so instead of an electric charge, if it has a magnetic charge, if there's individual magnetic charges out there, all we need is like one in the universe. One in the universe plus quantum mechanics would explain electron charge being quantized also. So there's things that we don't know, and so then we go looking for those. But we have ways to that if we can find something like the monopole, then we can say, okay, that's the reason the charge itself is quantized.
So like in a court where they say, we don't have any hard evidence, but we have,
Yeah, you look at the way that the particles come out when you smash them together.
what do we have apparencies? We have I forget what they call it in court. You know,
Well, you have conservation laws within
yeah.
quantum mechanics, and that's kind of what's discerned. So energy and momentum are conserved,
right.
and certain certain other kinds of quantization, like charge seems to be conserved, and there's other things like parity and that are mirror image properties. There's certain kinds of properties of the equation that look like, and we can test those with these particle accelerators. So,
Right. You know what?
but it's again, it's kind of an approximation because you can only just say, okay, is the model working good, up to a point, and does that explain the experiments? And that's kind of the same with the Big Bang theory.
And then the value of a theorem is the degree to which it can predict events
right.
that have not yet happened.
And yeah, that's right. And when it fails to explain something, then it makes a prediction, and if the prediction comes wrong, then you go, okay, we need to
modify
either throw away the theory and try to develop a new one, or try to find a better.
And in terms of the softer sciences, if we call it that, use the word science, but we call them the softer science, like sociology, political science, psychic science, or emotional science, things like that.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't,
Shouldn't call
calling
them
them
science.
social, probably should have had a separate word. But the complexities there, but the approaches could be similar. You use observation, and but the complexity of systems of social science, I think, are harder to discern and harder to test. I mean,
Okay, so now
that's
okay.
the real thing, is it's hard. You can't test it like you can in science.
Okay, so from your experience working in companies, I'm sure you work in companies or institutions or some kind of social structure where the experimentation is done, and
I work at UC Berkeley.
Okay, so you have seniors and maybe you have subordinates, right? So to what degree do you feel, how do you adjust the threat of a tyranny of a unitary leader, the boss, and the balance against trivial, unreliable whims of people countering the things they were requested to do? How do you balance that? Like, in other words, if they tell you, I want you to do all the experiments in the dark, because if you turn the lights on, you're adding energy to the room. So you got to be walking around in the dark, and
there's a lot of bureaucrats.
Glasses.
There's a lot of bureaucrats in the government and in institutions like NASA that are gonna not rock the boat because they got a mortgage to pay, and they're would be worried about losing their job. So yeah, most people will get in line and not step out of line, even when things get a little crazy as they are right now. Now, they eventually, if they get crazy enough, I think people will just start ignoring, this or disobeying their superiors. That's the way I look at it. I'm hoping that's the case.
Oh, so in other words, this current political upheaval, where they're going to get rid of a bunch of staff in your projects. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's
That-
not quite clear that, whether, Trump might decide, hey, let's give all our money to Musk and his rocket program, to
Right.
Mars, and let's stop these, wasting money on university research, especially since those universities are, are doing things like diversity training and teaching kids that that slavery was bad and stuff like that in the universe. The stuff that can come out of Trump's mouth is can be pretty crazy. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know at what point and it's not just Trump. I mean, you saw when how all the universities lined up and said, yes, sir, when the students started protesting in the Biden administration and the billionaires told the universities to clamp down on those protests, over Gaza. And they did, so the bureaucrats in the universities are just like bureaucrats in the government. They're gonna they're gonna they're gonna toe the line because that's how they got to the position they're in is for being obedient servants to the institution. So it's hard to know at
Basically,
what level they would finally say, hey, wait a minute, we're not going to do this.
so it's a top down. So when the top management says every class is going to be doing DEI course aspects to whatever you're teaching, even if it's mathematics or physics, you're going to bring in case studies that use DEI, like, well, 7 black kids went on a vacation and 7 white kids went on a vacation. Now, the black kids went to Coney Island and the white kids went to mountain. Now, why do you think that was? And so, or how many kids
I don't
total
think
went?
DEI was anything like that anyway.
Okay.
So it was pretty
Did you have to go to a DEI class where you're working?
we have trainings, like for instance, I go through trainings for to make sure, like if somebody who was my subordinate, at the institution who, say I supervised, came to me and said, I'm being sexually harassed, I did trainings that says, okay, this is what you do. This is your options, so you had kind of training on what to do about stuff like that, since sexual harassment, is a
Like
problem.
Title VII training.
Yeah, there's just, and but there's also ones like, they have trainings to make sure you don't, your computers don't get infected and infect the other computers. I mean, there's just a bunch of little trainings that you go through. Most of them are kind of silly. They even had a COVID training, which was absolutely absurd. But,
Uh-huh.
some of them are probably worth it, because some people get into positions and they just, and they may abuse their power, and when they have subordinates. So I think some of this is probably worth having. It's to me, it's just common sense. I mean, you go through the training, that's sort of like obvious what the for me at least, what the answers are. And
Well,
so I don't.
you're like a guy in the field. They're right on the spot. So you can tell us if Musk and Trump start
Ken,
to
before you go
deplete
into that,
your activity in your department,
What
either
was Mike?
financially or
I think Mike
personnel
was.
wise.
I think Mike was trying to say something.
Okay,
yeah,
Mike, go ahead.
before you try to move into an analogy that may not work.
Speak a bit louder, please.
Well, you want me to speak, but I'm speaking as loud as I can. I live
Okay.
in an apartment. The idea is that because I had to take, for instance, a sexual harassment video to do my civilian job, which is working as a standardized patient in the education at Touro University, for one. And so you have to go through this sexual harassment video. And like Jim says, the vast majority of it is common sense. So I brought that up to somebody at Touro. I said, you do realize, I mean, we have to do this every year. And it's really common sense. And the person at Touro said, you'd be surprised how many people don't have common sense. So these this training, this diversity training, this sexual harassment training is necessary. And I mean, you can't just figure out, okay, well, Jim has common sense or Mike has common sense, so he doesn't have to take this test. They have to do it across the board. But they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a reason for it, not just because they're under pressure, but a lot of times because incidents have happened which defied common sense, where somebody should have just known better. And therefore, they have to institute this preventative. Now, I know some people don't agree with preventative measures or something, but it's not, how is it hurting people? It takes me a few hours a year. I complain about it. I bitch about it. It's a pain in the ass. But I mean, is it really destroying my life? No. Is it really destroying society by just running people through this and saying, hey, no, you don't walk over and get a female associate that you're working with and say, hey, I can use this term, hey, you little whore, come here. Okay, that's sexual harassment. And it's also very nasty. But the fact of the matter is, you would say, of course you don't do that. And you could say, would probably say, who's going to say that? People do. And that's the problem. We have laws. Most people don't murder, but we have laws to prevent murder because some people do.
There's an interesting aspect, I think, too, about something like diversity training or sexual harassment training or any of these other things is the people that have the biggest problem tend to be the older people because when they were younger they didn't have to do it, and they're I think older people are set in their ways, and but if you want to be able to identify with younger people, you better take these and understand it, because this is what the next generation is thinking. This is not something that's being is coming from the top down. It's really it's the way young people think, and they're just like, no big deal about it. There's I think it's worthwhile especially for us older folks.
Well, also I could add into that is that I found for myself, I'm less proficient with computer technology than the average or even below average young person. So I find it more difficult than they would. It takes more of my time. But that's my problem. That's something I have to deal with. Times are changing, new technology is coming in, and we have to learn how to deal with it. I mean, one time I told them, they said, well, if you had more advanced equipment, I said, I can't afford more advanced equipment. So they said, oh, well, you can come to the university and use ours. Problem solved. So, yeah, it is necessary. I'll put it this way. It's necessary as a preventative measure. And there's other factors also. Universities don't want to be sued. If something does happen, well, why didn't you take preventative measures against it? I mean, there are pragmatic and practical reasons that don't have to do as much with moral or ethical consideration. But that's the way the world works. And Jim is absolutely right that younger people, it's not an issue for them. So if older people have a problem with it, oh, brave new world that has such people in it. It's the Shakespearean quote. Ken, did you leave? Because Jim
No.
and
I have a totally different take on it. By the way, when you say, like, you're talking about an environment in a certain part of the country with a certain collection of people who are mostly college graduates and, living moderate conservative lives. They're not drug addicts. They're not rappers. They don't work on oil wells. They're white collar workers in a North California community. So that's one thing. And then you could say, and amongst that collective, there's a different common sense is different for people under 40 than it is for people over 40, or it goes on a scale from 14 years old to 140. You get a bell curve, and somewhere in the middle is what we could call the common sense, what the common man in this group has. But if you were to say, even the same external parameters of college education and white collar work and middle class, and put it in Saudi Arabia or India or Tibet or Tasmania, not Tasmania.
Tasmania is near Australia.
No,
right?
no, the one that's got the crazy dictator.
Tanzania?
No. It's just right under Russia. It's one of those countries.
There's a lot of countries with crazy dictators.
Yeah, but
It's not just one.
The guy that's got statues of himself and everything.
Specific, yeah.
Tajik, that's it, Tajikistan. So, if you take that same collection of people who are at the same percentage of income as you are here, that they would be there, and they're white collar workers and they don't work on oil wells and this and that, they would have a different sense of what common sense is, and the spread of whether it's young or old. It all depends on the various aspects of culture. So it's not a cosmic concept. Common sense varies depending upon the definition of the environment you're trying to use it in. It's going to be different with people, sailors on a boat who haven't been to shore in 20 weeks or 20 months. That's going to be different common sense than a bunch of school teachers trying to decide, what they're going to do for the school play this year. So,
by common sense, why don't you define what you mean by common sense? Because to me, what it sounds like you're saying is what you were told was true as a child and you believed it.
Oh, that could
and then
be.
that becomes your common sense. But common sense is not something innate. It's something, or what people use the term for. It's generally not something that's innate in the human mind. It's a cultural thing that we're
Right.
taught, and that it becomes you become so used to it that you don't even think about it anymore. And if you do think deeply about it, you might find what you thought was common sense was, maybe it was misogyny or some other aspect of hierarchical structures or whatever. You don't know.
Well, I'm going to give you a great example, and it's going to be a sexual example because we don't have a significant amount following that I'm concerned about it. Let's say a woman flashes and exposes herself, or her dress falls off. So it's common sense, take off your jacket and cover her, or take out your camera and start taking pictures. Now, two different groups of people. Some would say common sense is give her a jacket to wear. Other people would say take advantage of it and take a picture, and that's common sense.
I don't think that's common sense.
Well, you don't. I understand, but other people would.
I don't think that's common sense for very good reason. Okay, because there are two different. If you say there's two different ways of looking at it. Now, the more decent thing.
Decent, but you're going to define decent.
No. I'm giving you my opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
The way I see things, the more decent, the more compassionate. Give her a coat if her dress falls off and she didn't take it on. And the more indecent, in my view, is to start taking pictures so that you can masturbate to it or whatever. I don't know. But the fact is that, common sense is more something like, if you're in the way our society is structured, if you cross, if the light is red and you're crossing the street, common sense would tell you, hey, I better look and make sure no cars are speeding down the block because I can get hit because they have a green light. Because the way our society functions is, red light means stop or don't go. Green light means go. That's something that's an artifice that we've set up. But because that's the way our society functions, common sense would be, hey, don't just, cross blindly against the light. and be under the expectation that no one would ever hit you. No car would ever hit you.
Okay, so then common sense would be the small daily decisions you make to ensure your survival, like tying your shoelaces, looking in front of you before you take a step forward, things like that.
I
Common
think a lot
sense.
of people would define it quite differently. You know, they
How's
would,
that?
some people would say it's what I think is true. That's what some people
Yeah,
would say.
well,
It's common sense to do that.
unfortunately-
And somebody else would say, no, that's not my common sense. It's what often, that's what often people will define it as.
Well,
So
that's
I
what you
kind of
have to
I don't like that term very much myself, because I think people abuse it.
Well, that's why I think we have to, what we're losing basically is a common language. And a common language is something that's agreed on. It doesn't mean it's necessarily right or wrong. It's just that we have to have a common look at common sense. And we don't anymore, I don't think. But we have to have this common thing we agree on. You know, if somebody goes into a kindergarten and shoots up kids, we agree that it's a crime, right? I mean, there could be some sort of society that said, no, that's not a crime. Everybody can do what they feel like doing at the moment, even if it takes the lives of somebody else. But we usually say, hey, you know, you got personal problems. It doesn't mean you can go shoot up a bunch of kids, something like that, just on a whim. Okay, this may seem like, you know, overly simplistic, but I'm just saying that we agree. The society seems to agree on that still, but there are some things we don't agree on anymore. And once we lose that common ground of agreement on certain things, we don't have a society. It's not a society. It's just, you know, a bunch of people, each person doing what they want to do or what they think is right, regardless of anything else. That's why we have laws. We commonly say, okay, this should be a law. Now, a lot of laws are not commonly agreed on. Okay. We've had laws in this country, certainly, that were, I considered disgusting. I didn't agree with them. But the idea is we have to, at least in some area, all agree on something. We agree on a common language. All right. In the United States, it's English. Some areas it's English and Spanish. In Canada, it's English and French. But they agree on those languages. And we agree to speak them. We agree that in this country, it's probably a good idea to learn English. In other words, you're not required to learn any other language. So we agree on English. Does it mean English is the best language? Far from it. But that's the language we speak. So we have an agreement. When people start saying this thing in the English language, this thing doesn't mean what we previously agreed on it means, then we have to think carefully. And we've had that situation where we've had to correct ourselves. But when people can't communicate with each other, when we change the rules of communication to the extent that you cannot communicate, when people refuse to even understand what somebody else is saying, we've got a problem. And we've got a problem now. And I'm not putting the words right or wrong on it. I mean, who's right and who's wrong. But I'm just saying that to me, it looks like we're falling apart as a society.
Oh, I think as a society, we're coming together. We were driven apart with all of the woke identity politics. The most important thing is your heritage, who your parents were and who their parents were, and the color of your skin and what you think and the group you belong to, isolated from everybody else. Identity politics was the cause of separation between people. I think that's getting done, and I think that's the reason they're getting rid of DEI. My objection to DEI, just to make it clear, forget about the definitions of DEI. The question is, where did this come from? Who invented it? Who said DEI is essential to society? And that's because of this. Here's the theory behind it, and here's the evidence behind it. No, they just said DEI. It came from the civil rights movement, sort of, and the people got tired about talking about affirmative action. So we changed the name to DEI. How do you like it? Sounds good, doesn't it?
That's not how it was.
That's the truth. I've looked it up. I know about it. And
Ken,
most people will not define it, will not define it.
What does DEI stand for?
Oh, the words stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. Now, what they're saying is,
No, you can't speak for somebody else. You've got to
Well,
look
what-
it up and give me somebody saying so. Because what you're saying is you're going to make a declaration about what other people mean about it. And that's not fair.
well, this
You
is
have to
what
look it
I-
up and say, this is
this
the
is-
authentic meaning, but you
this
won't
is
find
what
any.
This is what I was told. The purpose
By who?
of DEI.
By who?
Several people. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to rat anybody out.
Oh, well, what kind of people? Just
Human
people, friends?
beings. Well, people that I listen to on media, friends,
But
family.
not somebody who was hired to teach DE&I. Not an official person.
No, sometimes they were to teach DEI. Sometimes they were people who were working on programs associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, great. So give me
And-
precise
and their
definitions one at a
that they-
time.
Now, the purpose that they said was to basically improve our society. There's nothing wrong with trying to improve it, and to say, well, look, we don't have diversity really. We don't have enough yet. We
Give
don't
me a
have
definition of diversity before you start using it in a sentence. What's the definition?
of diversity. So you have a people. So in other words, you have all different types of people in any type of in a particular environment.
Who vary by what categories?
Whatever categories, could be race, gender, whatever.
Could be
Whatever.
height, could be principles.
You know something? To
Yeah.
be quite honest, it could be height, but it isn't.
Okay.
We haven't found or we haven't decided, we as a society, not we, the three of us, we haven't decided that the height issue needs to be addressed. But there are problems with height. I can tell you that, there are jobs in which shorter people don't get as much of a chance. So could that be a problem? That
Well,
needs
wait
to
a
be-
minute. Now that's equity. That's not diversity.
Well, diversity means you have a diverse group. Okay, you have diversity within the group. So in other words, you don't have an all white or an all black society. In other words, you don't have something in which white or black or whatever people have a greater chance. In other words, have more.
That's
of a chance.
equity. That's equity. You're splitting over to equity.
No, I'm talking about diversity. Creating
Well, diversity
in
doesn't have to do
environment.
with who's got an opportunity or a chance. It's
No,
just
but you're-
diversity is diversity.
No chance to get into that group. But that the group should have some diversity. I'm going to give you an example. Okay. In the United States, we had the melting pot, the concept of the melting pot, which was not a legally, a legal concept. But the idea of the melting pot, everybody comes here and they assimilate, they melt into this one identity. In Canada, it's called the cultural mosaic. So in other words, everybody is entitled to hold on to their cultural identity and not to just blend into the population, but to maintain their individual identities within this mosaic, within the whole being Canada. Now, this is just my experience, by the way. Experience informs common sense, is one of the most primary factors in informing common sense. But in my opinion, in my experience, Canadians, this is just my personal experience, all right? I'm not saying this is the way it is. It's just what, in my travels back and forth, Canadians seem to be more Canadian. In other words, they seem to have more of a commonality with each other than Americans do, because it's not this enforced melting pot. It's rather, yeah, you can be whatever you are. This is Canada. And therefore, if you go up to Canada, you'll see, talk to people with different identities, etc. But they're all saying, yeah, we're Canadian. Yeah, there's more of a commonality between them. So the
Well, the
cultural
people
mosaic-
that the one the
wait, let me
major
finish the
problem. No, you can't
hold-
talk all
Ken,
night.
Ken,
You,
Ken,
ca-
let
you
me just
can't
finish.
talk all night. That's
Ken.
not diversity.
No. Ken, let me just finish the sentence.
Go
To
ahead.
me, the cultural mosaic works better for having a unified society than the melting pot idea. That's from my experience. That's all I'm saying.
So, okay, so when I was growing up, I felt the common experience of sitting in front of a wooden desk with an inkwell in it and a folding seat, and the top goes up, you can put your books underneath, sitting in a classroom. If the majority of the population goes through public education, elementary school, they have a common experience, and that's a shared experience. They've all gone through elementary school. And I'm sure James might know that if in the sciences, we've all had to take some classes where there was a crazy professor who threw erasers at people or did outrageous things. In the sciences, you get that. And you get, characters who teach you things like.
I didn't get in the sciences. I got it out.
Because, because if all the people, or like in England, if everybody went to the same kind of schools, they have that common experience, and that gives them their national identity, common experience. Or if they've all been in the army and they know what it's like to be a foot soldier, common experience. Or if they've all studied ballet, it doesn't really matter what the commonality is. It's something everybody's done. Now, you and I, and perhaps James to some degree, all grew up watching the same television, okay? With I Love Lucy and or whatever it was that everybody watched, Clarabelle, what was it again? Howdy Doody. And,
I didn't.
Buffalo
I
Bill
watch
Jones.
science fiction theater, but
Okay,
I have to
sci-fi,
say, I'm sorry, I have
No.
I have a date with my wife right now, so I got to
Oh.
go out the door. You guys
Thanks.
have fun with this.
Thanks, James.
And
Thanks
that's a
for attending.
commonality we can all agree on. Have
Yeah,
fun.
we got women, right?
Regard.
So let's say we all grew up with the Twilight Zone. So we can all share that experience and say, what's our favorite Twilight program? Oh, remember when this happened and that happened. Remember having a desk. Remember the school bell. Remember the schoolyard. Remember playing dodgeball. Common experiences gives you unity of identity, of shared identity. And I could call that a melting pot. And I think that's very important. And therefore, it's better to have the majority of the public go to public schools. There can be exceptions with whole schools and special schools, as opposed to isolating everybody out. There's a benefit to isolating. Like if you've ever been to a private training for young people who want to be in gymnastics, usually girls, they have such a concentrated effort put on that it's only people who want to do that. Just like it would be only people who want to learn the violin. So you isolate that. That's not a common experience. But the common experience in public schools, attendance. Remember, the teacher calls out everybody's name. Remember that?
Yeah.
And everybody say here, 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 here. Everybody says here. And then everybody's make fun of people's names. What's your name? Let's say the guy's name is Red Brick. And it says, oh, you're a red brick, that kind of stuff.
That wasn't tolerated in my school, but go on.
Whatever, there would be stuff like that. There would be fist fights, or there would be this guy's a bully. So, and there would be this girl's flirtatious and so forth, but there would be commonality of experience. The auditorium experience, and with the principal giving a lecture. And these are things you remember, or the volunteer work, you clean the erasers. So it's common experience, just like hobos have a common experience of riding the freight trains. So that I feel is the strength of a community of cohesion. But
You
in
do
terms of
realize,
diversity, if somebody is going to be there to declare what diversity they consider is important, because in the last 20 years, I'd say at least 15, there's been a tremendous argument in colleges to reject diversity of opinion. They've had protests that say, this guy can't come on campus. He can't talk to us. We don't want him here.
right?
We don't want his diverse opinion. You know, you can't, you're taking your life in your hands if you say, I've invited a Holocaust denier to class to explain to us why he thinks that not that many Jews got killed or why the Jews deserve to be killed. I rescued a girl once, and she's the only German girl I knew. She was in a cult thing. So I rescued her. I took her out. She was really good looking. But anyhow, she explained to me why what they felt about the Jews. The Jews were very exclusive. You know, they shunned they might have been somewhat socially friendly, but really they excluded people. And the Germans considered that the Jews had money and had no empathy for the non-Jews who were starving. And that's what the resentment was to their wealth and their comfort when everybody else was starving. Whether that's true or not, that was the motivation they had in Germany.
It wasn't true, especially in Germany.
Yeah.
That was the problem. In other words, Jews were highly assimilated in Germany. I mean, you know, people had their Jewish, non-Jews had always had dealings with Jews. They were part of the society.
Right.
The problem in Germany was they resented the fact, I mean, with all due respect to this girl's interpretation of what it was, no, they resented it. They were dealing with Jews and they resented the fact, well, it really came down to racism. I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it was racism.
Yeah. But the Jews were highly integrated into German society. So the idea is that they were exclusive, that they only helped their own. That turned out in Germany, especially, that was totally false. It was
this girl was, let's say, my age, so she didn't grow up before or during the war. She was born after the war, so she maybe picked this up as what was told to her.
Yeah.
You know, I know in the neighborhood I'm living in right now, the Jews are not inclusive. You have to make an effort to associate because they all have a pattern of behavior and clothes and dialogue and activities that are exclusive to them, and they're always looking for. Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?
Yes, but that's the shall we say the ultra Orthodox.
Yeah. We'll call them the observant Jews.
The very observant Jews. I mean, yeah. I know people who are Orthodox, regular, you know, modern Orthodox. Yeah. They Friday nights they don't go out. They're kosher. Right. All the stuff. They walk around with men walk around with yarmulkes or something, but they're very inclusive. They're not exclusive or something. I mean, just the other day I was looking.
What do you mean they're very inclusive?
In other words, they say, you know, in other words, if you're not Jewish, they don't care. They just, as long as you respect what they have to do as Jews.
No, wait a minute. They'll sell anybody anything. Yeah.
No. I'm talking. They
don't invite you to dinner to go out with their daughters.
No. Orthodox. I'm talking about modern Orthodox. Yeah. The vast majority of Jews in this country. I mean, there's 6+ million Jews in this country, right?
That's it.
Yeah, maybe close to 7 now. I don't know. But the fact is, then I'm not including people who are Jewish but don't identify as Jew. You know, in other words, they say, no, I'm an atheist. I don't want to have anything to do with that or anything like that. I'm just talking about people who identify as Jewish. I think it's between 6 and 7 million. But the fact is that the overwhelming majority, we're talking about the ones that are more exclusionary, probably are less. I mean, I haven't made a study myself, but it appears to me from my own experience that they would probably, if I have to theorize here, they'd probably be less than 1 million.
Less what?
Less than 1 million. So 5 out of 6 Jews or 6 out of 7 Jews are not exclusionary or anything like that. But, you know, it's the old story, right? If a guy has, you know, knows only 3 black people and they've all been mean to him, he starts saying, oh, all black people are like that. They use their experience, they expand their experience. That's why I always say, from my experience, they expand their experience to be a universal truth, which it is. I mean, it turns out to be totally false. But, you know, you can't. Now, if he walked down the street, I mean, if he knew 10,000 people who were black and every single one of them was mean to him, well, the first thing I would say is, what are you doing? But, you know, but that's usually not the case. As a matter of fact, I say that's hardly ever, if ever, the case. Usually people are making these judgments and these assumptions based on very inaccurate and minor experiences that they've had. So, I mean, people, yeah, somebody in Germany in the 1930s could have, who only knew 3 Jews, and they were all, you know, ultra-Orthodox or nasty people or something, or exclusionary, they could say, oh, the Jews are like this. But from 3 Jews, I mean, that's idiotic, to be quite honest, to say, oh, they're all like that. But that's exactly what happened. I mean, most people, you think about it, in Germany, most of the Jews were in the cities. So somebody living out in the town in Bavaria who didn't know any Jews. And one Jew came into town and said, hey, you want to buy this rug? You know, I got a cheap Persian rug here, or something like that. And they had a bad experience, or they got ripped off. So they say, the Jews are no good. He only met one Jew. He only met the one guy. But he, you know, expands that to think that's how all Jews are.
Okay,
So,
well, let's look at practical facts, you know, scientific. As a friend of mine used to say, the fact of the matter is, Orthodox Jews go to shul every day, every morning. Okay,
no,
I see them walking there.
and correct.
Observant Jews go at least once a week with the family.
Ultra
okay?
Orthodox go every day.
No,
Regular
Orthodox.
go once a week. Yeah. Okay.
Orthodox. Observant Jews go once a week, or at least to the high holidays.
But
And
they
there's
could
so
be
many
Orthodox
holidays.
also.
There's so many holidays. I mean, I
Yeah.
see them around. If you see them building a sukkah is the name of the holiday, and they build a tent out in the backyard, okay, for whatever the ceremony is. That's observant. Okay, observant is kosher, 2 sets of plates. I don't know if you're going to get. I think that Jews wear special underwear before they have sex. I don't know, but that would be extremely Orthodox. You know,
Yeah,
the women. There's a thing called mitzvah, where women they go have a bath after they have their period or something like that. That's extremely observant.
Okay, and the people that go to synagogue every day, that's ultra Orthodox. But you do have most Orthodox Jews are what you would just call observant. That's all they are. They're kosher. They have 2 sets of plates.
Where do they, when they go to restaurants, which ones do they go to?
They'll try to go to kosher restaurants, although I know a lot of Orthodox Jews that will go to a diner, but they'll have something that's kosher. In other words, they'll have a salad. They won't mix milk and meat. They're kosher.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, that's Orthodox. But that isn't ultra Orthodox. That isn't the people that you see with the payas and, the long coats and everything
Right. Orthodox or observant Jews, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
There's a slight, which one is closer to Orthodox? I don't care. But it's,
Yeah.
you know, you could call them Orthodox or observant Jews, not ultra Orthodox, fine. And so, but those factors, they send their kids to yeshiva or a Jewish school. The kids grow up with other Jewish kids.
Right.
I had a friend who was teaching in a yeshiva. He told me that they cut out any picture of a woman in the New York Times, the LA Times. They're like going to go over the Times, but first they have to edit out anything to do with women because, you know, no sex
That's
thing.
ultra orthodox. Yeah, that's ultra orthodox.
Well, maybe the school is ultra Orthodox, but he was teaching there, and that's where the kids send their kid. That's where the Jews send their kids to school if they can. They don't. You don't usually see many yarmulkes in a public school. You see mostly black
Actually,
kids.
No, actually, you do. The thing example I was going to bring you is I saw this group of kids walking down the street, and
Yeah.
let's say I don't remember how many there were, but let's say there were 9 of them or something. So 3 of them were wearing yarmulkes, 3 of them were black, 3 of them were just something else, and they're all talking, and they're all buddies, and they're walking down the street. They go to public school together.
Okay. Well, that's unusual. So I haven't seen that here.
Oh, I see it a lot in New York. I mean, the idea is that what happens is, but this is the whole thing, and I should tell you, this is why I'm in favor of public schools rather than private schools, or even charter schools or something like that. Because in public schools, you have that diversity. It just happens. You don't have to enforce the diversity. I mean, you did back in the days when we had to do busing, because we had basically de facto segregation. But I think today there's much less of that. And the fact is, people go to public school and they're exposed to other people. My parents would never, even if they had the money, they would never have sent me to a private school. They wanted me
Yeah,
to
that's
go.
what I did with our kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1/3 of the estimated 60,000 school-age Jewish children attend Jewish day schools
Wait,
or religious schools in Los Angeles.
Oh, in Los Angeles.
Only 1/3 of the estimated 60,000 school-age Jewish children attend Jewish day schools or religious schools.
Right.
Only 1/3.
That's a lot.
Nearly
Actually.
3 in 10 Jewish households in Los Angeles include at least one person from outside the United States. Okay, so this is just statistics about Los Angeles.
Right.
So those are things which, and they live in a neighborhood that's Jewish, if they
And
can
by the
afford
way-
to.
This
is an expensive neighborhood.
Let me add another factor in that. They're doing that if people who, 1, answered the poll, and 2, choose to identify themselves as Jewish. It doesn't mean that they don't identify themselves normally as Jewish, but some people say, when somebody calls them up and say, "Are you Jewish?" they say, "I don't want to answer that question." Okay, they don't want to deal, just like people don't want to deal with polls. So take that into account. I mean,
Okay, I got the percentages right here. All districts, Los Angeles County of Education, a total of all districts. Okay, it's 1.2 million students. 6.8% Black, Indians 0.2%, Asian 8%, Filipino 2.1%, Hispanic or Latino 65%, Pacific Islander 0.3%, white 13%, and 2 or more races 3%. So it's mostly Latinos, 65%. Everything else is minor. Now this is not showing me the race. I'm trying to see where the race, not the race, the religion. They might not have it here. Let me see. American or
they may not, because I've received, like when I got the census, there was nothing on the census to say what your religion was.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. because it's a census. So I figured they'd be asking every part of somebody's identity. They asked questions, and when they gave a question as to ethnic background, Jewish wasn't an option. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, I don't mind the Jews, or I'm not. But the Iranians are terrible. Iranian Jews are just
Iranian
awful.
Jews again, there they come from a society in which they were excluded.
The
So,
Jews in Iran.
yeah, so that
I know,
that
but
was-
it's not that. It's the marketplace thing. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
How much do you want for that? What? What? You give me? Can't you make it cheaper? That kind of a thing.
And I'll tell you something very funny. With the Iranian Jews, that's why they become very wary of outsiders, because they were excluded. And so when they come here, because my parents, before they lived in Great Neck, right? And before they sold their house in Great Neck, the house behind us, our backyard, we have a small backyard, but the people behind us were Iranian Jews bought it. And Iranian Jews have a different culture than, shall we say, American Jews. It is a different culture. It's almost like a different ethnicity,
Right.
because they didn't believe in backyards. They believed in other words, the backyard was in the middle of the house. The house would be built like a circle.
Right.
And the backyard would be in the middle, because they are wary, because of prejudice when they were in Iran. They don't want to interact, even with even with other Jews that are not Iranian Jews. And they build the house right up to the edge of the property. There were a couple of problems in Great Neck between American Jews and Iranian immigrant Jews, because
Yeah.
people would say, you're building the house right up to the property line, because the outside area was in the middle of the house.
Wait a minute. There's something you're talking about. I think I have an interesting theory. This only happens once every 3 months or so. When you get a religion or a culture that has many, many rules, then you will get bickering between them. Like what I see with my hummingbird feeders. Hummingbirds, little angelic animals that are vicious. There's a hummingbird, he sits in a tree waiting for another hummingbird to come over to the hummingbird feeder. Then he zooms in and chases them away. It's plenty of water for everybody to drink. They zoom in and chase them away. That's mine. So
That's
when you have a religion that, because we had when we first came here, a woman came to us, she wanted to rent the apartment. I live now. She said, down the street. Why you want to move from over there to over here? She says, because over there they said I wasn't Jewish enough. And I
That's
switched.
right.
And
That's
I think she had actually numbers on her arm, but it was like, because she wasn't Orthodox enough. So if you
Right.
have a religion like Judaism that has very high particularity about how you do everything, how you pick your nose, what finger to put the finger, what finger you should put the ring on, how, what time you should go to bed, what plate you should use for this, everything, right? And,
Yep.
and what about pushing the doorbell? Well, if the doorbell was tied to a string and it pulled the bell, it's okay. But if it's electric, you can't. So, very mechanical. And that would cause disputes because there's a lot of detail. When you get to a religion that doesn't have a lot of details, like the Unitarians, right? And the
Right.
Unitarian is that we used to say you got the cross, the Star of David, and you got the question mark. That's for the Unitarians, and so the Unitarians would be like, oh, he's a heroin addict. So that's what he does. What do you do? They're very tolerant.
Well, look at what goes on with Islam.
Islam is very detailed, very detailed. It's basically harmonic to Judaism. In fact,
Right.
the materials I read was he was to recruit Jews, so he made it, as close as possible.
Well, the whole thing is that, look, in New York, when Muslims they like to move into Jewish neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is obviously because
The food.
halal.
Yeah.
is similar to kosher. It's actually less strict than kosher, but they know that if there's a kosher butcher there, they're going to get the food is going to be halal as well, because
Right.
kosher covers halal, and also because it's similar. They like to, into the religious, the observant Jewish neighborhood. They like to be there because the rules, a lot of them are very, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, separate and women.
Right, right. So there's an understanding, all politics aside. And by the way, if you go to Knesset in Israel, you know how many fist fights have broken out in the Knesset?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. It's sort of
Oh,
like, okay,
there were.
fist lights, okay, in the
Every
parliament.
couple of days, people start throwing punches at each other. So yeah, I agree with you. That theory is worth investigating, because people, if you're in a religion or a sect or an ethnicity or whatever it is, in which you have all these rules and all these restrictions, there's just more things that can be interpreted a different way, or people could say, no, 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 we don't believe, in strict kosher. I mean, we're just kosher. We're not glot kosher. And
Right.
so, you have an argument between two people who are kosher.
Right.
I mean, I was never raised kosher, so I'd say they're all crazy. But the idea is that you're right. The more strictures you have, the more problems you're going to have within the community. And I mean, in Islam, between Shia and Sunni,
Right.
I mean, it gets crazy. And within fundamentalist Christian communities, they start saying, no, no, you're wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
the major wars in Europe were between Protestants and Catholics.
Right. Right. So the idea is that, human beings, you give them enough rope, they'll hang each other.
Yeah. But it's a characteristic of most species too.
Yeah. Well, the hummingbird thing you said, because it's interesting. The hummingbird was guarding the water, right? And there was plenty of water for other hummingbirds.
Yeah,
But
it was just a territorial demand thing.
it was a territorial thing. So this hummingbird, their brains aren't developed enough to say, hey, there's plenty of water for everybody. They just say, oh, we got water here. If other people come, other birds come, we may not have water. They're not like measuring the depth of the water and say, there's plenty for everybody. So it's like basic, like you said, territoriality. And that's why you get people, I mean, when a rich person says, hey, I got 3 homes, 8 cars, 5 kids or whatever from different marriages, and I've got a 3-bedroom or 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartments or something. But I'm used to that. That's the way I want to live. So if somebody else says, I don't have anything, they say, well, I don't want to give up my 5-bedroom apartment for a 4-bedroom apartment because, I earned it or I'm used to it or whatever. And, you say to yourself, well, that's ridiculous. But that's hummingbird territoriality.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's ridiculous because you say to yourself, how much is enough?
Yeah. Oh, so anyhow, Jim told me he says, do you want me? I can flood this meeting. So I said, okay, let's do that next time. So he'll send out a list. We'll get more people attending, but we're going to have to do, you need permission to talk. So, because he said he had a terrible meeting that you were in where you guys were calling each other names and stuff. So,
well, you know why? Because we had a couple of people there who were just saying, well, first of all, I have to say, I had a couple of dealings with people that day. So I got on this meeting and I had one guy said, oh, Ronald Reagan was a great actor. And I just had no patience for that. So at that time, so I said, what do you know about acting? Okay. And I said, if you like him, fine. If you like what he did, fine. But don't tell me he was a great actor. You know, I almost said to him, I said to him, I was going to ask him what he did and then say, well, I think, he was a plumber. I'd say, and you're a lousy plumber. I don't
Okay,
like, you
so-
don't know what you're doing.
Okay, so let me ask you, let's just to cut this off because we're going to cut off. Did you see any even trailers to the Bob Dylan movie? I forget what it was called. No One
Mhm.
Here. What's it called? It's a line
Think
from
it-
one of his songs.
Yeah. Shit. I was going to say Don't Look Now, but that was an old movie that, no, I forgot. I know the movie you're talking about.
You've
and
seen the trailer, right?
I've seen pieces of trailers,
Oh yeah. What do you think he's a good actor?
I have a problem.
You have a
I couldn't
problem with him.
find out. But when and this is a problem that a lot of people had, and I didn't think I would ever have, but I have. Okay. If Bob Dylan, we all knew Bob Dylan, right? Back in the day. We knew what he looked like, we knew what he was. He would do his concerts. To see an actor play him, I might get what I would call over judgmental. And
Oh,
say, no, that's not Bob Dylan. You didn't capture him exactly. Well, it's extraordinarily difficult to capture somebody exactly. So I kind of shy away from
and we
those.
just went through a movie like that. This actor who played the part of the lead singer in Queen.
Oh, okay. And there was the Leonard Bernstein thing where,
Yeah, that was a terrible movie.
yeah.
The acting was okay, but they just stuck on homosexuality. Well,
right.
who gives a shit about that? It's the music that matters.
That wasn't Leonard Bernstein's major contribution to the world.
Is
the
that
way-
right?
There's a play now going on in New York. I think it started in LA actually, where it's about a meeting between Marlon Brando and Tennessee Williams.
Uh-huh.
And they got an actor playing Marlon Brando, young Marlon Brando. And I'm going, I can't watch that.
Uh-huh.
Because I knew Marlon Brando too well. So I'm going to be sitting there going, this guy missed it. And maybe I'll be being unfair. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm missing the essence of play because of that or something. So I tend to, avoid those
You
things.
tend to have too much respect for an iconic individual.
Well,
That's not Spencer Tracy. That's not Charles Lawton. That's not Laurence Olivier. Those guys were all, that's not Orson Welles. Those were iconic heroes, and you're degrading them by giving a bad presentation.
Well, more importantly, remember I studied with Stella Adler, so I knew all these stories about Marlon Brando, and she would talk about Marlon, not all the time, but she would talk about what he was like. And so when I see these guys play him, and I said, no, you missed it. You missed it. You're not playing him as smart as he was. You're not playing him as poetic as he was. I would say I'm not going to go to this thing and then say that was junk when it may not have been junk. It's just that they didn't get it. They didn't get it all.
Well, I'm wondering, that wouldn't happen if you were watching a biopic of where some actor was portraying Charlton Heston. You wouldn't feel like that, no matter what he did.
Well,
Charlton Heston.
No, if I saw somebody playing Charlton Heston and he was nothing like Charlton Heston and he wasn't as good an actor as Charlton Heston, I'd be going, this is bullshit. What is it Orson Welles said about Hamlet? He said Hamlet was a genius who was written by a genius and he should only be played by a genius. It's really, it's a problem. And I'm getting to this point, I guess I'm so fed up with the, this anti-elitism that's going on. I don't believe in elitism, but it's gone to an extreme, which is that, hey, now there's no such thing as good or something like that. If Pee Wee Herman plays Marlon Brando, that's good enough. We should accept it. But then again,
is he still alive?
No, he died.
He died, yeah.
And he was nothing like that in real life.
What, Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah, Paul, I forget what his last name was.
Paul
But-
Rubin, I think.
Paul Rubin, yeah. But I don't think they should do movies for the most part about actors. It's actors playing actors.
I know.
And I'm sorry, actors are not great movers and shakers of societies. And
Well, wait,
civilizations.
but this is really these are movies about performing artists, singers. Like
Yeah,
let's say the Billie Holiday story or the Al Jolson story, or you can have things like that, or you could have any about a Mario Lanza story or something. You could have a movie. They haven't done it yet, but you could make a movie about Pavarotti.
yeah.
You know,
But something to me, like,
but
for
it's not
instance-
necessary because we have enough video of him performing.
exactly, exactly. But like, Lady Sings the Blues.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is-
that was what's Diane Ross did that.
That movie to me was worthwhile because it wasn't just a biopic about Billie Holiday. It was about the suffering she had to do as an artist, the suffering as a woman, the suffering under racism. There was, there were other things it was saying. I'll never forget. I always liked the movie Somebody Up There Likes Me.
Yeah, that's Paul Newman.
That's Paul Newman. That was his breakout role as Rocky Graziano.
Right.
And it was directed by Robert Wise, who directed West Side Story with Jerome Robbins, who directed The Haunting and The Sound of Music, etc. Robert Wise was, I feel, the greatest American film director.
Okay.
And so I'm saying, well, Robert Wise directed this movie, and he usually, even if it's fluff, he tries to inject something deeper into it, So I was watching the movie for like the 40th time a few years ago, and I'm watching it, and then I got what it was. I mean, it was, why was he making the Rocky Graziano biopic? Yeah, Robert Wise was an excellent New York director. He really could capture New York, and I thought that was the main reason. But it was also the fact it was this guy, who came from the slums and the difficulties he had getting ahead in the society. They were like social issues, when I say social issues, I don't mean like the Message movie or something like that. But there were issues about, life in this United States. What was it? Reader's Digest had a column, Life in these United States. But it was about, the struggles and the things people have to go to, and the things they had to do with themselves or something like that. And I said, something, he was touching on things. I mean, he touched on them much more in West Side Story or Odds Against Tomorrow or something. But he, but he did touch on these issues. And it was if a story.
I have to agree with you that, like, in other words, it's a big challenge to do a biopic because it's not a fictional character. Like one of my
Right.
favorite movies was the one with I'm just forgetting all the names. It was the not the Frontier Man, the Trail Maker, the Deer Slayer, I think it was called. It was about Last of the Mohicans. That's the name
Oh,
of
the
it.
Last Mohicans, yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time. But they're
Right.
fictional characters. So
Right.
Daniel Day-Lewis playing that part. I don't know. I didn't read the book. I'm not even comparing it to a character in a book.
Right,
So
right,
that's the guy. The guy
Right.
playing the part is the guy.
right.
It's like you got the real guy. He made the movie. It's about himself, and there he is. Because I don't know who the real guy was that was Last of the Mohicans.
Right.
None of the characters. Or like, I know this is a movie you saw too. Cornell Wilde in Naked Runner,
Naked Prey, yeah.
Naked Prey. That's
Yeah.
the guy.
Right.
We don't know
Yeah.
we don't know who the real guy was.
No. And there may have been no real guy. He was invented, so the
That's
actor
right.
had a say in his invention. But
That's right. And then there was another movie like that where we had no real exposure to the real guy, which was the thing where Stanley finds Livingston.
Yeah,
And that was
Right.
Spencer Tracy and Sir Cedric Hardwick.
right, right. So
And-
we
and-
accepted them because we didn't know what
We don't
they
know.
look like or what they were like or talk like or anything. You're right.
It's
But you
interesting.
know,
And same thing with Gunga Din. We don't know.
no, these were
Those
invented.
are the guys.
I'll tell you something funny. When I was writing my play, now remember, I'm writing my play about a real event that real people went through, right?
Yeah.
In World War II. So I didn't write the first draft. I did 7 years of research
Yeah.
before I even could write the first draft. And even then, I had to change the names of the characters because I said, I can't say, this is what the one character that I bet one character is based on somebody named Lockie Fulton, company commander, great guy. But I said, I don't know if this is exactly what Lockie said at that time or something. I got to write a play here. So I changed the name. I
Yeah.
called it a fictionalized account. Because when you're writing a true story, man, the responsibility for getting it and the difficulty in getting it right is enormous. Enormous. It's a pain in the-
It's interesting, and sometimes because if it's a fictional character, you can get away with having famous people play the parts
right.
because it's just fictional. I'm thinking there was a medical movie with I think it was Frank Sinatra, and they were and somebody else, and they were all medical students. I think I got it right. And
With
then one of them is dying, and the other guy tries to save them because they're all
Right.
doctors, and he doesn't. He doesn't.
Right.
It's a
That
very
was-
touching movie.
That was not as a stranger.
Okay, there you go.
Robert
But-
Mitchum was a doctor. Frank Sinatra was also a doctor. They were buddies. And the guy, there was a third doctor, Charles Bickford, and Robert Mitchum, thought he was the greatest guy on earth. And Robert Mitchum thought he was the greatest doctor on earth, but he couldn't save his friend.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, I like that movie, but
Yeah, it's a very good movie, and it didn't matter that you knew the actors. That's an actor. That's Frank Sinatra, and that's Robert Mitchum. You don't care. In fact, Robert Mitchum, you'd say, "Oh, I like Robert Mitchum."
right.
He was very likable.
Right. Yeah, and the fact is because it's a fictional character, so you can say, somebody else, if they did a remake or whatever, somebody else could play him, but it's a fictional character. They could take liberties with it. You can't take liberties with a real person. I mean, Paul Newman had to hang around with Rocky Graziano for months.
Oh,
And
really?
he still didn't get him exactly.
Well, but the era when they used to make biopics, which I liked, and that's what
Yeah.
I really liked about the Oppenheimer picture. It's the first
I didn't see
bio
it.
picture I've seen since Gandhi.
Right.
Maybe I'm missing something, but it's Gandhi and Oppenheimer. I can't think of anybody else. There may have been some others. Yeah, well, there was the one about I almost got his name again. The guy who in Queen, another one bites the dust. What's the guy's name? The lead of the Queens. So, or I don't know if there was any other biopics, but there used to be a lot with Paul Muni.
Yeah.
And wait a minute. And who played Edison? Was it
That was
Mickey Rooney?
Mickey Rooney and then Spencer Tracy.
Spencer Tracy did Thomas Edison?
Now, Mickey Rooney played young Tom Edison, and
Right.
Spencer Tracy did the movie Edison the Man.
Oh, okay.
So they
Right.
did too. And by the way, as it turned out, those movies about Thomas Edison were almost totally false. It was
Yeah, I know.
But nobody knew Thomas Edison that well. So they accepted Mickey Rooney and then they accepted Spencer Tracy. But
Yeah,
if somebody did a movie about John F. Kennedy, and
yeah.
people have, then what you do is do you remember there was a TV movie in the 70s about the Cuban Missile Crisis?
No, I
And
don't
they-
remember.
It was called, I don't know, 4 Days, the Missiles of October.
Yeah. I think they used some guy who's got a short haircut. I forget who it was.
They got this guy, William Devane, who actually became
William
a minor.
Devane?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, William Devane. Right. Yeah, William Devane. Yeah.
he looked and sounded like John F. Kennedy.
Or like a guy from Boston, anyhow, to a degree.
Right.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, but they had to get somebody who wasn't a star. Gandhi, Ben Kingsley. Ben
Right.
Kingsley, nobody knew who he was. He wasn't a star, but they
Right.
knew they had to get, instead of a star, they had to get somebody who really people would say, oh, he looks just like him. And see, he's really caught him, because Gandhi was too well known. There was film of him.
Right.
People remembered him at that time. And so they didn't go with the star. They went with somebody.
And I'm just thinking of the other guy. There's one guy that they must have made about 5 biopics, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
You got Raymond Massey.
Raymond Massey is but when Raymond Massey did the play on Broadway, Abe Lincoln in Illinois, and they put him in the movie, and he became instantly identified as Abe Lincoln. Now, he was a known stage actor, and he had done a couple of films, but he wasn't a star. That made him a star. But he spent years trying to shake off. People were only casting him as Abe Lincoln roles, and he looked like Abe Lincoln.
I know. But then now I left out another biopic that was excellent, which was with the guy from England who played Lincoln in
Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Perfect. And authentic.
If he didn't look like Lincoln to begin with, he made himself look like.
And he did it with the high voice and everything.
Right. And those, you see, and now he was a star, but
But you don't recognize him because he's so good.
Yeah.
He's playing the character, Yeah.
That's, to me, the best kind of actor is that you may not recognize him from one movie to the next.
Right. Absolutely. I feel that way about Therese Theron. I've seen her in several movies, and I watched it about a third of the way or 2/3 through the movie. I say, that actress is pretty good. Who is that?
Exactly. You shouldn't really recognize him, because the other kind of like personality actors. But and by the way, there were actors who would have done that, but they were locked in. Like Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
He said, no, I want to change my appearance, etc. He wanted to make it like they wouldn't recognize him, and the studio would say, no, we can't sell the movie if they don't recognize you.
Yeah, but he did try to play different parts. He did Guys and Dolls, and
yes, he played different parts, but he couldn't. They didn't want him changing the way he did. Do 1 or 2 movies where he changed his appearance.
Yeah.
Not necessarily well, like in Tea House of the August Moon.
Right.
They didn't do well because everybody wanted to see Marlon Brando.
Right.
So he was kind of locked in. I'll never forget, there was an actor. You remember the actor Anthony Quayle?
Vaguely, I'm not sure.
He always had supporting roles in The Guns of Navarone and Lawrence of Arabia and everything.
No, I wouldn't. I'd say, well, once I'd see his face, I'd say, all right,
yes.
I've seen that guy.
If you see him, anyway, I saw him on Broadway do a play that was totally different than anything I'd seen him in film. And he was excellent. And then I read an interview, this is back in the 70s. I read an interview with him, and he said he did a couple of these roles as a stalwart British officer, and he couldn't get out of them. They would just come to him and say, we've got a part for you. It's a stalwart British officer. And he said, can I play something other than that? And they said, no, that's what they want you for. That's how they want to cast you. So when he did theater, he would go and play something completely different. That was the chance he got to act. Some of these guys get the chance to break out of that. Paul Muni did, because he was known for becoming the other character, for like losing himself. So they would go to the movie to see, what's Paul Muni going to look like playing this guy, or what's he going to transform himself into? But most of these,
I think he did Pasteur.
Yeah, he did the story
and Dreyfus.
Yeah, Emile Zola, right?
Emile Zola.
Yeah. But people went to see him for that.
Yeah,
that was his selling point. But Clark Gable, forget it.
Right.
You know, you
Here's
know,
looking at, yeah, or Bragg or Bogart.
Bogart, yeah, and
Here's
Bogart,
looking at you, kid.
yeah,
We,
he tried to
we were
break out
just
of
watching Casablanca about 2 nights
Yeah.
ago. Unfucking believable. Perfect movie. Perfect.
Well, I think it's overrated. It was basically an upgraded B movie. It was very enjoyable.
It's
Don't get me
very,
wrong.
no, I'm just talking about clip, 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 clip,
Oh
clip,
yeah,
clip. No dead air. Bang,
yeah,
bang, bang, bang. I mean, even if they're just talking, it's
yeah.
like it's significance. There's a something there.
It was
You know,
Hollywood. It was Hollywood when when it worked. When the films were. It was the Hollywood film that worked. But Humphrey Bogart also he tried to play like intellectual. Nobody went to see the movie.
what movie did he? I never saw him do anything out of
Uh,
character. I mean, played different characters like the Kane Mutiny or African Queen. Different types of people, but it's
he
always
did.
Humphrey Bogart.
He did one movie. Oh shit! I forgot the name of it. He did one movie. It flopped. It
Oh,
flopped. Forget that.
I always admired him because he's about the only actor that I can name 6 classic movies. That are iconic movies: African Queen, Kane Mutiny, Treasure Sierra Madre, Casablanca, the one with the big sleep. That's 5,
Well,
and I
I
left
can.
some out.
Yeah, but I can give you another actor who people don't think of in this term, but if you think about it, he did, and that's William Holden. I mean, look
Yeah,
at
I don't familiar with. I mean, all I know him is the Bridge on Toko Ray or whatever.
the bridge on the bridges at Toko-Ri and the bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah,
Also,
he was in the River Kwai, that one too.
Right.
Yeah,
Sunset Boulevard,
Sunset Boulevard. Okay,
the
but
Wild
it's
Bunch.
the Wild Bunch. But he's very like cheese sandwich. I mean, he's very. It's not.
He was
He doesn't have any bangs.
well, no, he is a very good actor, and he had bang. But what William Holden was when he played it, he was like a regular guy.
Right,
He was
regular guy.
he wasn't something. He didn't play people who were like stood out from the crowd.
Right, he's not Marlon Brando on a motorcycle. Right,
Exactly,
he comes
exactly.
in a Chevy, a convertible,
Yeah,
Chevy convertible.
he was more of an everyman,
Yeah,
you
the
know, a
milkman.
rugged everyman. Yeah, and like Jimmy Stewart also.
Jimmy Stewart is especially like a guy everybody likes.
Yeah, he's like
Affable.
the nice guy next door, even though he played other parts. He did a lot of classic films, a
Yeah.
couple of Hitchcock films. In other words, he did classic, Rear Window and things like
Well, no,
that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not just Bogart. Another one is Cary Grant.
Mhm. Cary Grant, yeah.
That
Um,
that's that his movies were not that great. Some of them were good. Like I could well like the Big Gun. I think that's the name of it. The Gun
well, The Gun, yeah, but that
with
flopped
is the flop.
because yeah, financial flop. He played a
With
movie called
wait a minute, Sophia Loren and
Frank
Frank
Sinatra.
Sinatra.
Yeah, yeah, the movie flopped.
It
Cary
was a
Grant,
good movie
they wanted to see Cary Grant in comedy. That
in
was
comedy. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. House of Arsenic and Old Lace.
right, right,
Great
right.
movie.
What was the one with the lion with Katharine Hepburn?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And then he did, and then even in the Hitchcock film, when he did a Hitchcock film, North by Northwest, he had, there was some comedy in there. There was some comic moments with him. There, that was his niche. He wasn't known as a dramatic actor, right? Um, it depends upon
No, he
how.
had a career and a half.
Oh God, he was one of the biggest stars in history. I mean, he was incredible, enormous. But there were actors who were like, let's say Robert Mitchum, right? Robert Mitchum was known as this, quiet, droopy-eyed, rugged guy, right?
Yeah.
That's what he played, and that's what people like to see him in. But then one day he said, I'm going to do this other movie directed by Charles Lawton called The Night of the Hunter, where he
Yeah.
played this
The
maniacal villain. Yeah. And he was brilliant, but nobody went to see the movie.
Really?
When it came out, it flopped. It's only like 20 years later, people started discovering, they say, wow, this movie is a work of art. But at the time, nobody wanted to see Robert Mitchum playing a vicious killer trying to carve up two
I
little
mean,
kids.
I think of mostly being big movies with John Wayne, you know, Rio Grande or something, you know, something in
Yeah.
Mexico with machine guns.
Yeah. So when he got older, when he was younger, he did all these film noir movies where he played, you know, the guy on the lamb.
Okay, well, let's call it a night because I'll
Yeah.
probably wind up seeing you on Sunday.
On Sunday, what's on Sunday?
Jim has somebody, 1
This coming
o'clock,
Sunday?
1 o'clock your time.
This coming Sunday?
Yeah, wait a minute, I'll tell you who it is.
Yeah.
Let's see.
By the way, while you're looking that up, if Jim does get all these other people on this show next week, you may have to go into mode where you could say, all right, look, if you're going to speak, keep it down to 5 minutes. Don't interrupt. You know, you may have to keep firmer
Oh,
control.
no. Yeah, well, of course. So here we go. This is a guy named Dave Lindorf. His book, Spy for No Country, The Story of Ted Hall, the teenage atomic spy who may have saved the world. 3 books he wrote.
Ken, that was
What?
this past Sunday.
That was what?
That was.
Oh,
this-
that's one he did already. Sorry.
Yeah. Does he have
That's-
another one coming up?
I think so. Let me check again.
By the way, that was a good talk. It was
He sent me that.
Yeah. He has another one that he wants to schedule, but I don't know if it's this Sunday.
Maybe he just mentioned it to me.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But he's got others coming up. And do you go on his Ukraine talks? Wait.
No, never. No. I said I'm not interested in most of the military stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
and that
I've got a viewpoint with Ukraine. It's very simple, you know.
Well,
Everything's
that was a-
known, and the US fucked it up because Russia's on the border with Ukraine, and they were willing to do negotiations, and the US Secretary of State said, no, you're not bullying us. Forget about it. You withdraw, then we'll talk. You know, he wouldn't deal with them. Whatever he said or didn't say, he had an option to do negotiations and they didn't because they wanted the fucking war to, you know, to for the military industrial complex. There shouldn't
Well,
have been a war.
to drain Russia, but
Maybe to drain Russia and the Ukraine and the, you know, there was a promise made to the Russians that no more NATO countries, and they broke that promise. And
Well,
there was
you
a
know
promise
something-
made to the Ukraine, or Grace tells me there's a promise made to the Ukraine. If you get rid of your nukes, the West will protect you. You
Right.
know. So
but you know something? I will say this much. I believe Russia should pull out of the Ukraine, that area totally. That area that that's in dispute where there's a lot of Russian speakers, you know, in that area.
yeah.
You could Donbass. You can have a referendum there. Let them have a referendum, and you give them a choice. You could be with Ukraine. You could be with
Yeah,
Russia.
the Russians said they already did that, but I mean, it would go to Russia.
Well, it probably would, or it might be just independent on its own. But they
Yeah.
should pull out. However, I don't think Ukraine. I mean, if Russia would guarantee Ukraine's sovereignty, then I would say no. Ukraine isn't going to be in NATO. Shouldn't be in NATO. And I think if Ukraine got a guarantee from Russia for its sovereignty, they'd have no need to be in NATO. They weren't in NATO before. And I don't, you know, if it isn't, the reason they want to be in NATO now is because of the Russian invasion. But if Russia said, okay, we're going to come to a deal and we're never going to bother you again, that's it. We agreed to your sovereignty, blah, blah, blah. Then why should Ukraine join NATO? As a
Well,
matter of
that's
fact,
what our logic, does, whatever's going on there. But I mean, that's my thing. So I don't want, I think Frank Bradford was always thinking Ukraine's going to win because of technology. And then Alex or other people say, no, Mother Russia will win.
yeah, I know. That argument
So
goes
it's
back and
like,
forth.
I don't know.
Both
I'm just,
propaganda sources. But when the last one, the last one he did, it got so simple-minded, where people were just saying, no, the reason that I support this is because this guy's bad, the other guy's good. And I would say,
right.
what do you mean by bad or good? And he'd say, they're good. I think they're good, so they're good. And I just blew it. I
Yeah.
mean, I had a day where I was dealing with people like that, not even about politics, or people just saying, no, what I think is what is, and I just
Yeah.
blew
Yeah. A lot of people do that. Okay. All right. That's it. It's nice talking with you, and it's good night.
your better half.
Yeah. I've met her.
Regards.
Huh?
Give my regards to your.
Oh, give my
better
regards to Grace. Okay. I'll tell her you
Yeah.
said so.
Tell
Okay.
her
Bye-bye.
Tell Grace I think she's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing Grace. Okay.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, you're gonna have to.
I'm going to
turn it
close
off.
you off, and then I'm going to do a close to the video, and that's
I'm
what
not
was I
getting.
say? I've never done this before. I'm going to remove you. You're going to be removed. Wing. Okay, that's the end of this going viral session on the 19th of February, 2025. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was kind of freelance, random topics. And see you next week.